Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Thursday. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, and producer-engineer Trenton Craxner with you for the next 4 hours. Jam-packed edition of 580 Sports Talk today. So thanks for tuning your radio dials or your computers in to listen/watch this edition of 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on the YouTube video stream on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook video as well at WIBW News. Hope everybody is having a great Thursday, a better one than James McArthur is having after his implosion last night cost the Royals a series victory over the Arizona Diamondbacks. We'll have plenty to say about the ninth inning of that game, including whether McArthur ought to be pitching in any more ninth innings moving forward. I think his appearance last night is evidence that his role has shifted in the bullpen. Does it need to shift further? We'll discuss. Also, should it have even gotten to the point that it got at all? Brian O'Nora blew a call in the ninth inning, and I'm upset about it still, and I'm going to make a little noise about it. Trenton Craxner are also upset about a variety of things, and we're going to hear from him plenty as we talk Royals baseball on this show. We've also got some Chiefs to talk about today. Day off up in St. Joe, so no new news from up there. So we'll take the opportunity today to talk about something that has been a point of emphasis early on for the Chiefs, and that is turnovers. Turnovers were really the reason the Chiefs finished 11-6 last year and did not accumulate the typical win-loss record that we're accustomed to. Can they turn that on its head this coming season? Can the defense get better at turning the ball over or turning the other team over? We will discuss that later on. And we'll talk some KU K-State football today as well. ESPN was posting the biggest question marks for each projected top 25 team, and this year, that includes both of the in-state squads, the Jayhawks and the Wildcats. We'll see if we agree with ESPN's assessment and discuss some other possible question marks / concerns for KU and K-State as we get closer and closer to the start of college football season. Some guests on the program today. We're going to hear from a couple of Washburn football players. Brendan, you had a chance to run down a couple of Washburn Gritters at the MIAA Media Day earlier this week.
That is correct. Connor Searcy starting fullback for Washburn's offense. Jordan Finnessy, junior, starting safety for the defensive side of the ball. Good stuff from both of them. Who works for Washburn could Jordan beat in a game of golf right now? You're going to hear about that, plus their expectations for the coming year. Lots of good stuff from the guys. So that's coming up a little bit later on this hour.
We will also be joined by Rick Peterson of TopSports.News for our Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around as he continues to release 10 athletes day by day on the top 100 male and top 100 female athletes in Shawnee County history lists. If you haven't been checking those out at TopSports.News, you ought to. We'll talk about some of the latest or the most recent installments. The top 20. We've arrived at the top 20 for both lists. The women's 11 through 20 were posted today. We'll talk about that as well as some other local sports news with the great Rick Peterson. That's coming up at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. Also, all the other things you've come to know and love from a Thursday edition of the show. We'll play a little either or over under. 2 new stories on what is wrong with you. Sports headlines, top of the 5 o'clock hour, including day 2 of our Olympic update.
I was going through our show notes. I didn't see I didn't see this. Where did you schedule today's round of snake facts?
I did not schedule today's round of snake facts. I guess probably at the top of the show. Here's a snake fact from last night. Ketel Marte is a real pain in the ass, isn't he?
He is. Yes, just like if you were bitten by a Western Diamondback rattlesnake. Yeah, that's like he's a good player, and you know that. You always know who the guys who are most likely to beat you or to, put you through a painful inning, a painful outing are going into this matchup. But yeah, getting beaten by someone once, you live with it. Getting beaten by someone constantly over the course of a 3-game set that you end up losing, that doesn't feel all that good. It feels great when you can still beat that team in a series. Say, all right, Ketel Marte was great, but we don't have to face him anymore. Awesome. Let's move on. Doesn't feel so great when that guy is just beating your brains in for an entire series. And he had the exclamation point last night when it ended up being the game-winning home run on RBIs. He was to James McArthur what Harry Truman was to Douglas MacArthur, doing everything he could to publicly embarrass him. And that's exactly what he did. And I give him credit, give the D-backs credit. Second half D-backs are apparently a real thing, and that's starting to show itself again here in 24.
Lots more to discuss about this game. Trenton's chomping at the bit. We're going to get to it, I promise.
No, I just thought after everything that happened Monday, they let Torey Lovello walk out with 2 wins and a series win.
Yeah.
Disgraceful.
That's pretty frustrating. Don't you see why I hate that team? Over the course of 3 games, don't you see why I hate those guys?
I didn't have a problem with them till this series, and it's just like it's like the Minnesota Twins. Like, why is it always us that they steal it from you right at the end?
I've seen a lot more of the Diamondbacks on a regular basis as a fan of another NL West team. I have never, with my own 2 eyes, seen Ketel Marte make an out. I've never seen it. Just never have seen him record an out with the bat. He is always tripling into the corner or hitting a home run, power from both sides of the plate. As far as I'm concerned, Ketel Marte, when I have the TV on, is like Hank Aaron and Willie Mays combined. Like, there's never been a hitter like him. I can't believe how good he is. Anyway, lots more to get to with regards to the Royals, including a little more trade rumor mongering as well.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to the DM Injury Law Royals ticket window again for another family 4-pack of tickets for Friday night to see the Cubs and the Royals, and maybe get your hands on one of those Patrick Mahomes bobbleheads if you get to the ballpark early enough. That's coming up later in the show.
You're going to have to get there plenty early.
Oh,
I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Make a day of it. Go get some barbecue at around 2:00. Get to the parking lot around 3:30. That might not even be early enough.
We're keeping for a 7:10 first pitch. Yeah. You're gonna have to you're gonna have to be in line to get in when gates open if you want one.
Yeah, that's probably the case.
Having been victimized before by an hour ahead of time is probably enough on a big bobblehead day before. Spencer, I'm sure would complain about the same thing.
Yes,
not exactly how it works.
Yeah, there are big bobblehead days, and then there is a Patrick Mahomes bobblehead at the Royals game kind of day. So yeah, but you're gonna have a chance. You'll be in with a chance because you'll have tickets. If you're our winner at the DM Injury Law Royals ticket window. Again, that's coming up later on the show. Be listening for that. You are, as always, invited and encouraged to be a part of 580 Sports Talk. You can interact in the YouTube live chat if you're watching the video stream on YouTube at 580 Sports Talk, our YouTube channel. You can interact with other listeners and interact with your humble hosts via the YouTube live chat. Love to see your comments on there throughout the show. You can also text us. The Top City Metal Supply text line is open for business. That number is 785-272-9429. Send us your texts, and we're happy to interact with you in that fashion as well. All right. Yes?
Just doing some reading about General MacArthur.
Sure.
A little bit. A quote from President Truman about him is actually very fitting to continue the allegory here, because this is actually how I feel about most baseball managers at the professional level. He was quoted in the early 1960s, Harry Truman was, as saying this about Douglas MacArthur. I fired him because he wouldn't respect the authority of the president. I didn't fire him because he was a dumb son of a you-know-what. Although he was, but that's not against the law for generals. If it was, half to 3/4 would be in jail. I feel that way about a lot of MLB managers. And frankly, a lot of MLB teams. If it was illegal for them to be dumb, if it was against the law for them to be dumb, we wouldn't have any left.
Rockies owner Dick Monfort would be in Supermax.
Mega prison.
Yes.
Yeah. Harley Douglas, head coach for Washburn baseball, right this second would be managing the Anaheim Angels, if that was the case. Like an actually good manager would be right now managing the Angels.
Douglas MacArthur, in the 9th inning of his career as a general, kind of blew everything there in Korea and made a total mess of it, was removed from his command. And now we're wondering if James McArthur might be removed from his 9th inning command after last night's 9th inning blow up. That was not really artful, but you saw what I was trying to do there.
Oh,
right?
yeah. No, you set me up for one later, so I appreciate that.
Perfect. Anyway, Royals had a 4-3 lead, turned into an 8-6 loss after a wild 9th inning. James McArthur responsible for all 5 runs allowed in the 9th. I want to start here and say this. McArthur can't throw a better pitch than the 3-2 fastball he threw to Gerardo Perdomo that if Brian O'Nora had seen it, might have rung up Perdomo, might have resulted in a strike him out, throw him out double play, might have had the Royals shaking hands. The home plate umpire's job is not to balance the scales. Brian O'Nora blew a call earlier in that at bat. Worse than he blew the call in the 3-2 pitch, to be frank. So Diamondbacks fans probably felt like there was a bit of justice in Perdomo drawing a walk on that 3-2 pitch because I think it was the 2-1. It was a curveball that was below the knees and was not a strike, and O'Nora called it a strike. Perdomo was visibly unhappy with it. It evened up the count, changed the at-bat. Not a good call.
No.
Your job as an umpire, as an official, and any official worth anything from the high school level on up will tell you this. It is not our job to make up a call.
Right.
Make-up calls are not a thing. You miss one, you miss one. You have an obligation to get the next call right. Brian O'Nora did not get the next call right. And you can fairly argue that missing that call in the 3-2 pitch to Perdomo cost the Royals the game last night. That being said, he threw a great pitch. McArthur did. And O'Nora calls it right. We're singing a very different tune about a pitcher who's been really good since early June.
Yeah, and after the game, he was very, he shouldered the blame. McArthur did and said, hey, look, I can't make that pitch. I can't get to 3 balls in the count. That's taken a lot of the impact out of my hands, et cetera. He was diplomatic about it. But on one hand, it sucks. Like you got jobbed, frankly. I feel bad if you're a Royals fan because you don't want to see a game be completely swung on a single call like that. That being said, I kind of agree with the diplomatic approach by James McArthur. Like, don't give the official in whatever sport you're playing, do not give them a chance to exert more power than they already have. And that was a moment where Brian O'Nora had a lot of power over what would become the direct result of that game. And you can't put him in that situation. That
being said, yes, he's been good the last month and change, but the broad stroke numbers for James McArthur, Trenton Craxner, paint the picture of a guy who is kind of hanging on by a thread to these late inning responsibilities.
Yes, and who was that idiot last week that said McArthur should be the closer instead of Harvey? That was me. I was the idiot that said that on the show.
Hey, look, we do on Second Thought on Fridays. Okay, you're jumping the gun.
I think I said it last week though.
That's all right. We can double back on it.
Yes, Brian O'Nora missed the call. Game should have been over. I mean, Lourdes Gurriel was gunned. Royals take the series. However, Lourdes Gurriel hit 103 mile per hour infield single that Bobby Jr. stopped. Then after that, Moreno hit a 100 off the bat for the go-ahead double, which Hunter Renfroe, who runs like he has a piano on his back, took a terrible angle and let that ball go by him.
Who do you think wins in a race? Real quick sidebar. Who do you think wins in a 60-meter dash between Renfroe, Sal, and Pasquantino?
Pasquantino.
I'm gonna go find the sprint speeds of all three guys in baseball.
Renfroe.
Hunter Renfroe runs like he has 2 pulled hamstrings.
That's how I used to run. So I'm sympathetic. Anyway, continue.
Moreno, after the Moreno double, 94 infield single by Carroll that Hampton knocked down. Marte hit one 420 feet on 103 for a home run. Peterson lined out 99, and Christian Walker hit a 109 mile per hour ground out. So it's not like McArthur was fooling anybody. No. However, none of that happens if Brian O'Nora makes the call, but you still got to go make a pitch out after that.
Yep.
Because you're facing a guy that pinch hit in the 7th or 8th inning. That was 1 for 8 in the series. And I don't know, I think he's hitting like 220 or something like that this year. I don't know what Gabriel Moreno's hitting, but you got to make a better pitch there.
Yeah, hung a slider.
And as you said, James McArthur is supposed to be the closer for the Royals. And opponents are hitting 302 against him this year.
That's not what you want.
He also blew his 5th save last night. There's only 2 guys that have more blown saves than him. Clay Holmes, the Yankees closer, with 6, and Tyler Kinley for the Rockies, and he's not their closer anymore with 7. How much longer can you hang on?
So I think that last night's pattern of bullpen usage is pretty clear signal that Matt Quatraro is going to mix and match. Hunter Harvey worked the 8th because the top of the order was due up in the 8th. In a 1-run game, those were the most important outs of the game in that moment, and Hunter Harvey was deployed to get them. And Harvey weebled and wobbled, but did not fall down. He got out of the inning, got the shallow fly out with the runner on third and less than 2 outs, and got the ground out that he needed to get out of that inning. Also, it's much easier to get out of that inning if you don't hit Corbin Carroll with an 0-2 pitch. Like, just you could tell, like watching the game last night, Harvey was not getting on top of the splitter, like just flat out. It was a very, very easy mechanical fix.
Yep.
He was on the side of the splitter, he was yanking it to the left. Simple mechanical fix for him. I think Harvey's going to be fine long term. I'm not too worried about him, but he was deployed in the big leverage spot against the best hitters. And then it was McArthur in the 9th against the lower half of the order, and he didn't get it done. But I think that goes to show that Harvey's going to be the guy to get the highest leverage outs moving forward. And that was what was suggested when he was acquired. And I think that's what Matt Quatraro is going to do. It's just unfortunate that McArthur, against a less ferocious part of the Diamondbacks order, couldn't get the final 3 outs.
And it looked good because he came on, struck out Eugenio Suarez on 3 pitches. It looked good to start. It was like, he's going to do it. I mean, because I thought Harvey was going to blow. I mean, he was up 0-2 on Corbin Carroll, then he hit him.
Right.
And then it was like, oh, here you go. Here's where the bullpen lets it go. But he got out of it. And then, I don't know. You can't blame the game on the umpires, but man, it really feels like the Royals got hosed pretty badly.
It was a bad call, and it did. It impacted the game, and no umpire wants to make a call that impacts the game to that scale. But,
if he doesn't give up that home run, though, the Royals are down 5-4, and Pasquantino hits a walk-off single, though, at the same time.
That's right.
So
it's a very different.
You got to keep going.
A very different looking bottom of the 9th inning, and the Royals had a rally put together. Sidebar: I want whoever was operating the camera for Bally Sports Kansas City last night imprisoned.
What was that angle, bro? I knew he got in on his hands, and he acted like he hit it to my house.
Oh, man, they were following. I thought he was going to hit it over the Royals Hall of Fame.
I don't even.
It died 10 feet from the warning track.
I think 10 feet's generous. It might have fell 30 feet short of the warning track. I don't think Gurriel moved.
They show the camera angle. If you're not able to watch the Royals games, you missed this. This is only reference.
This is for the club.
Yeah, this is you only
Club
get this
Valley.
if you were watching it on Bally Sports Kansas City last night. The camera followed Salvador Perez's game-ending flyout, and it panned way up into the sky to follow that ball like he just hit it 500 feet.
Yeah, baseball savant. That had an exit velo of 87.4 miles per hour and traveled 339 feet. And the way he hit it, he probably had to hit about 55 more feet to get it over the wall to tie the game. It had a expected batting average of 0.50.
So, Bally Sports Kansas City cameraman for prison after that deke. But to the broader point, and we've had some commenters point this out in two varying degrees in the YouTube live chat already. The Royals have a formula. They have a very clear formula for success. Starting pitcher goes deep into the game, and on offense, the big dogs eat. And last night, neither of those things happened because Michael Wacha only covered 14 of the allotted 27 outs. Zerpa and Long were both good. Zerpa pitched out of the jam in the 5th. Had a clean 6th, Sam Long, solid 7th. And that is a lot to ask of what we know to not be a very great bullpen. And then on offense, the 4 runs scored going into the 9th all came from the bottom of the order. There were some big spots where the Royals came up empty. Perez grounding into a double play in the 1st inning. On the first pitch, after walks to both Witt and Pasquantino, you kind of have to live with that with Salvador Perez, right? Like the Leopard's not going to change his spots at this point. He's going to swing at some bad pitches. Pasquantino hits into a double play after a leadoff single by Witt in the 6th. So you looked at it going into that 9th inning. Witt had been on base 3 times, and Pasquantino had been on base 3 times, and neither of them had come around to score.
Yep.
The Royals have been one of the best teams all season long at hitting with runners in scoring position. They got 1 hit with a runner in scoring position, and that was Pasquantino's 2-run single late.
Yeah, 1st and 3rd in the 1st and 3rd inning, Salvador Perez hits into an ending 6-4-3 double play. Just elevate the ball, dude. You have the fastest guy in baseball on 3rd. You don't even have to hit it that far. But the Royals and Diamondbacks were each 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position entering the 9th inning. So you can say that the Diamondbacks probably should have won that game. But, I mean, all their offense was 3 home runs. So, I mean, the Royals blew their opportunities, but they still deserved to win the game because they were holding the Diamondbacks down too. I mean, they weren't the only ones missing opportunities.
Yeah, it was both teams. Both teams would have been a frustrating loss for whoever lost it last night. And unfortunately, it's the Royals on the wrong side.
Which makes it that much worse that there was another outstanding factor that changed the outcome of the game.
Right. Yeah. It'd be one thing.
We could have felt crappy enough about that game on our own.
Right.
Brian.
If McArthur just dirts that 3-2 pitch and we're not even talking about the umpires and it's just, McArthur was lousy. It is what it is. No, man. McArthur threw a mother of a 95-mile-an-hour sinker with some nasty ride, and it was called a ball.
If you're wondering, Honora took that ball that Waters got hit in the 6th or 7th, like up the upper thigh. If you want to find more information, Google Brian Honora sting on Google.
Definitely do that. Holy cow.
Oh, man.
He used to work as a crossing guard in the offseason. If you'd like to learn more about that, Google Brian Honora trafficking.
Yeah, I mean, I thought maybe it was like a Paul Clemens situation where it's a local guy giving a call, and then you find his Wikipedia page. It's like, oh no,
how hard is it for umpires to get fired?
Buddy, we're suspending Pat Hoiberg for betting on games, but this guy has a job.
So that's really hard to follow. I might just get out. I think we just take a break. When we come back, we'll let you know if Dylan Cease completes the no-hitter. He's 1 out away in D.C. from no-hitting the Washington Nationals. We'll also tell you who's faster between those 3 extremely slow Royals. And I'll throw out a name as a possible trade candidate for the Royals. That's coming up. We're just getting things rolling on this edition of 580 Sports Talk Live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 WIBW. .230 on 580 Sports Talk. We promised you we'd update you. Spencer Dupuis is on vacation this weekend. He'll be back next week. But today, he had as many hits as his beloved Washington Nationals did in a 9-inning baseball game against the San Diego Padres. Dylan Cease with the second no-hitter of the 2024 campaign. 114 pitches, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts. He was touching 100 miles an hour with his fastball in the 9th inning. That's real hoops. That's some old-school country hardball. And Dylan Cease no-hits the Nationals. The second no-hitter in Padres history. Anyone remember who threw the first?
Joe Musgrove.
Not long ago, in fact. The Padres, I think, were the last team to have never thrown a no-hitter.
Later than the Mets?
Yes, the Mets got
Johan
Santana sacrificed the rest of his career so that he could throw the first Mets no-hitter. Does anybody remember who threw the first no-hitter of this season?
Yeah, Ronel Blanco.
Ronel Blanco of the Astros.
Because in the show, he is always their pitcher in every single Diamond Dynasty challenge. Every single one of them.
Didn't he get suspended right after that for like using a foreign substance?
Yeah,
too?
he has taken he has had to take a 10-game suspension earlier. So wow, weird. The Astros in cheating. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thought that would be possible? A couple more Royals thoughts as we get things rolling here on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. I went and looked it up. The StatCast has the sprint speed numbers. I asked earlier who would win in a foot race between Perez, Pasquantino, and Renfroe. Salvi would lose 24.9 feet per second. That is in the bottom 6% of Major League Baseball.
Can't believe it's not lower.
Yeah, no kidding. Vinny Pasquantino, 25.5 feet per second. And at 26.7 feet per second, actually faster also than Adam Frazier, Hunter Renfroe.
Okay, real quick. Okay, they pinch hit. They had Mantiply come in, and they pinch hit Nick Lofton for Michael Massey, right?
Right.
If we're going to put Renfroe in as a defensive replacement in the ninth inning, why didn't he bat? Also, Drew Waters cuts that ball off. I'm not saying he catches that ball in Moreno's, though, but he definitely cuts it off and holds it to a 4-4 game.
Yes. No, so you're absolutely right.
Q just bungled that. Like, if it just bad managing.
I didn't like that. I didn't like how that was handled. That was really curious. I don't know why you're trying to jumpstart Nick Lofton's bat. It's not happening. Stop trying to make it happen. What if I told you guys, we've been talking about possible trade acquisitions for the Royals. What if I told you there was a veteran right-handed outfielder available who carries an OPS over 1,000 against left-handed pitchers this season?
Not bad.
That would be pretty nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That player's name is Kevin Pillar. He currently plays for the Los Angeles Angels. The well-traveled Pillar is a really good immaculate grid answer, formerly with the Blue Jays, the Giants, the Red Sox, the Rockies, the Mets, the Dodgers, the Braves, and earlier this year, the White Sox before the Angels acquired him. This year, in 75 plate appearances against lefties, he's hitting .371 with a .413 on base and a .629 slug. He's got 11 extra base hits in 70 at-bats against left-handed pitching. He can play a credible center field, even though he's getting a little up there in years at 35. This isn't easy. I mean, we keep talking about the Angels because they're such an obvious seller, and their farm system is so bad. Remember, we were looking at the new top 100 from Baseball America.
Yeah.
They have the top 100, and then they had their list of guys who just missed. Like, they had a list of players who got at least one vote from their committee as to who would be on the list. So the Royals didn't have anybody in the top 100. Blake Mitchell was the only guy who got a vote.
Yep.
You know who didn't even have anybody get a vote? The Angels. Not one guy in their system. So they'd take anybody.
Yeah.
At this point. I think Pillar is worth a flyer. A veteran guy. He's been on winning teams. Hits lefties.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather have him play a corner or center than Garrett Hampson or Adam Frazier moving forward.
And then I know we talked yesterday about Rooker, and he'd be your DH. What if you had Pillar play right, and you could just have Hunter Renfroe play outfield every other day or whatever, and DH, and have Pillar in left or right, and then you'd have a really good outfield group when Melendez comes back, who just started his rehab assignment tonight. No, Double-A Arkansas. You could just have him play right field, and Renfroe could be your DH, and then you solidify that
center bat ninth.
Yeah, because he's younger and really good in center.
Slightly below average defender at this point in his career, but still has a really good arm, still runs well. I think that's worth a phone call. You said you had somebody you were thinking of?
I do have a name I'm thinking of. See if you can, how long it takes for you to name this player. Top of the order guy. He would bat in your leadoff spot. Makes good contact. None of it is hard. In fact, he is, I believe, last in Major League Baseball in terms of barrels this year. That is correct. Or barrel percentage anyway. He is very fast. He plays a great middle infield, and he would not have to leave when this weekend ends.
Nico Horner.
Yeah. He will never be an OPS plus guy. It will always be no better than 100 because he does not slug at all. But he's fast. He plays a good glove, and you can lead him off.
And the Cubs are open for business.
Yes.
They've made that clear.
I don't know what he will cost because he's 27 and he's under contract for 2 more seasons after this one. They bought out his arbitration years.
3 years, $35 million. So he's making about $12.3 million a year. He's a 1.5 wins above replacement guy. two-win guy, a glove man up the middle, kind of plays royally style contact and speed.
You just need playable in the one hole right now.
He was a Gold Glover last year.
Can I interest you in CJ Alexander straight up?
No, you cannot.
Another infielder.
Deal's off the table.
Stop trying to pawn CJ Alexander off on everybody.
I don't want CJ Alexander. I don't want Daniel Lynch. We need new packages.
Neither do the Royals.
We're going to take a break here at 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we're going to hear from a pair of Washburn football players, Connor Searcy and Jordan Finnessy. They spoke to Brendan Dworzinski earlier this week at MIAA Media Days. That conversation is next here on 580 Sports Talk. Today, Rick Peterson is going to join us from TopSports.News for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around, bottom of the next hour. We're going to talk.
By the way, this is pointed out to us from Mark on the YouTube live chat. Happy National Intern Day, Trenton.
Is that right?
Yeah, that is definitely a holiday. It was real.
National Intern Day.
Yeah.
I have bad news for you, though.
Oh.
The Detroit Tigers just shut out the Guardians, and they're 51 and 53. So your bet is Heat this year. So
that is good news, though, for the chasing pack in the American League Central.
5.5 back now. Yeah, 5.5. Yep.
Royals back within 5.5. Yes.
Yeah.
National Wine and Cheese Day.
I'll take half of that.
National Hot Fudge Sundae Day.
Absolutely, we'll take indifferent, ambivalent toward that one.
not a merry-go-round guy.
No. The Casey Musgrave single by the name merry-go-round, though, phenomenal. Also phenomenal, making a trip to Kansas City earlier this week for MION in the week. His thoughts on the start of the season and the start of full camp. How about we hear from some of the players as well? A couple of returning starters, fullback Connor Searcy, as well as safety Jordan Finnessy. Talk to Jordan about returning, how much more experience they gained over the course of the 23 season. So without further do. Let's hear from a couple of starting Ichabod
days in Kansas City. Brendan Dworzinski here with you, joined now by two of the veterans for this year's Washburn football team, both Jordan Finnessy and Connor Searcy. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. How was the trip out here? How exciting are
It was good. I mean, the trip was over, nice short, hour drive, so nothing too bad. Got some good conversations in. As far as football season coming up, I think we're ecstatic. We're stoked. It's been a long time coming. Hadn't played for a while, so I bet he's eager to get a chomp at the bit. So
for sure, yeah. Like Connor said, just eager's the word to put it. Get out here and get things rolling and get into camp here in a couple of weeks and just prepare for that first game.
Jordan, for you, with last season with the injuries, and it wasn't just you and really for all the guys, to just have an off season where you're healthy and can get back to working out and getting prepped for the season.
Right, it's huge. Just to get back and get that strength back, but also just to get back in there with your teammates and just grind and put that blood, sweat, and tears in with those guys. Just getting ready for the season as far as being able to go out there and put it all on the line for the guys.
Offensively for you guys, Connor, I mean, last season with so many young guys coming in, and you were one of the veterans of that group, but so much youth. For all of those guys to get that kind of experience, taking it into this year, how have you seen them grow on that side of the ball over the course of last season, but throughout this off season as well?
Yeah, no, I think better, if not the best, growth-wise off-season that I've seen as being a part of Washburn football. Seeing those young guys come a long way, with the playbook and knowing the plays and making less mistakes, young freshman mistakes. And, at the end of the season, we saw more of, explosive plays and good actual, Washburn football and their, play-making skills and football IQ and, putting it all together and growing as a chemistry, as a team together and being able to just put that all,
When you talk about Washburn football and wanting to play that Washburn style of football, offensively, what does that look like for you?
Well, offensively is we're power spread kind of team. We're going to run the ball, we're going to throw the ball, we're going to make big plays here and there, and I think it's just kind of a team ball and methodically march down the field and through runs and passes and create drives, but then also if we need an explosive play, we'll create explosive play whenever we need.
The power part of power spread, I imagine, as a fullback, and I know you guys were just talking about laying out some pancakes before we started here, I imagine that is the part of the game you thrive in. And I would imagine, week one, it's been a while, you've been hitting your own guys. I imagine that's probably one of the things you're most looking forward to this fall.
Oh, yeah. No, I love it when, I get it every get that chance to hit somebody, especially, swipe back block. I thrive in that, and I think the team thrives in that too. When I, or anybody else does it. So I'm extremely looking forward to getting back out there and doing that.
Connor Searcy and Jordan Finnessy joining us from out of the ball. Jordan, when you talk about what Washburn football does, and a lot of consistency on the coaching staff, and with a lot of you guys back this year, what do you want that to look like when people think of Washburn?
Just say when people look at Washburn football defensively, they just see a hard-nosed, gritty team. Guys that they just know will get up play after play and they're going to get hit in the mouth. And I think that's really what we've been building, especially this offseason. We got a great group of guys that just love to work, and we've been putting that work in. And we're just looking forward to getting out there and being able to put that out on the field. So
I imagine it's very similar for you as it is for Connor, that first week. You play on a Thursday even. Don't even have to wait for that first weekend. When the pads start popping and you get to lay that first hit, first big tackle, whatever it ends up being, is that one of the things that you sort of focus on as a benchmark for the year? Like, yeah, practice is great, fall camp is great, but getting on the field, hitting someone over the middle for the first time, like that's really what means the season's starting.
yeah, for sure. We all train every single day with that first play in mind, come August 29th, I believe it is, to just get out there and fly around and just really put everything that we've been practicing and training for into motion and be able to do it against someone other than your team, because at the end of the day, we're battling against each other, but we're just doing that so that we can put the best product out on the field.
Going back to the spring game, going back a couple of months now, I remember in the huddle afterwards, Coach Sherrick is talking to you guys, and there were a number of players, I think mostly from the defensive side of the ball, but there were a number of guys who were getting in each other's face and, trying to one-up each other. They were talking trash during that. What does that say about this group that even during spring game exhibition stuff, that there is that kind of energy for your squad?
I would just say it says that we have that competitive nature within ourselves, that we all want to be the best. We're all going to push each other and hold each other accountable to the standard. And that's a high standard. Washburn football, we have a high standard. And if guys aren't being that standard, then they're going to get left in the dust. So that comes along with holding each other accountable, bringing everyone up with you, and just pushing everyone to be their best at every single moment.
You guys have obviously seen a lot of successful football during your careers at Washburn. Last year, though, obviously doesn't go the way anyone had hoped due to so many things. The record doesn't look the way you would want it. So, Connor, going into this year, then being a little bit more of the hunter as opposed to the hunted, does that change your mindset at all going into week to week or even into the whole season, sort of a more aggressive mindset to want to bounce back to the level you guys know you can play at?
Yeah, obviously, we want to get back to being on the winning side of football, and we're, that's our goal, is to, have a winning season and get those wins to flip our record. And I think that is part of our mindset right now is coming out and being aggressive and really just showing who we are. I think, with some of the youth that we had last year and stuff, and with the injuries we have and people coming back, I think those people coming back who are injured are eager and ready and hungry to get back out there and really just show who Washburn football is and get back to our ways.
Washburn standouts Connor Searcy as well as Jordan Finnessy joining us here live from MIAA Media Day in Kansas City at the Kauffman Conference Center. Looking ahead to this season, do you guys take any time to look through the schedule and say, all right, that's Emporia State week 1, obviously circling that one, but mine's in week 3, technically it is this year. Do you go through the schedule at all and look ahead to that, or going into this season, is it mostly we got to focus on this week by week once they come?
I would just say I think that it's a little bit of both. Obviously, we have that goal of week 1, and that's our primary focus, but then kind of looking a little bit past, you have games that maybe didn't go your way last year that you want to get back. And so that's always in the back of your mind. But for me, at least, it's just getting ready for that first game primarily and focusing on that and just doing everything you can to get ready to show out when that first game comes.
Do you have one of those games, Connor, that stands out from last year that we should have won it, or it's going to be especially, an emotional high? Do any of those stand out for this year?
I wouldn't say any specific. I mean, I want all of them. If I'm going to be honest, I think that, I go into every game confident that I'm the best player on the field, and I want to prove that. And so, to me, that's how I play, and that's how kind of I approach every game. And so that's my mentality when I step out on the field, is I got to show that I'm who I think I am. And kind of like you said, looking forward, I just, historically, top teams in our conference, you look at our schedule now, and it's within those first 5 to 6 weeks is we got a lot of those guys that are historically the top teams. And so we definitely put the focus on this offseason of we have to be ready to come week 1 and from Emporia to right to the runner-ups of last year's team. So I think we've kind of put that in the focus on this offseason is just starting from week 1 and taking each week at a time and really just going out there to prove who we are.
As veterans veterans on this team. How do you think your mindset has changed? And Connor, we'll start with you. Just going into a year, changing your role from as a freshman, just trying to, get on the field, do the best you can, not get in too much trouble, I imagine, every single day, to now being legitimate leaders on this team. Have you been able to sort of notice as that's going on how your mindset has had to change and how your roles have had to change?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. I think last year actually was a big stepping stone for me. As we continued to lose games last year and leaders were going down left and right. Somebody had to step up, and I think I did a pretty good job of stepping up in that role and that leadership and trying to be a light and a beacon of hope for the team. And so I think I took a lot of strides in my leadership role last year. And speaking of, from freshman to sophomore year, just trying to do my best and be out there on the field for the team my junior and senior year, really just taking that leadership role and trying to inspire and lead these young guys right and live the way that I, preach. And what I tell the young guys is to lead by example and stuff. So,
and Jordan, I'm sure it was a very unique situation for you last year, not being able to lead by example on the field all that much due to the injury. How have you sort of noticed your role and your responsibilities as a veteran on this team kind of change over the last 12 months or so?
Yeah, so I've always been kind of a lead by example guy. Coming up, I kind of always just put my head down and just would kind of keep to myself and grind, and with always that goal of getting on the field in mind. Last year, like you said, just going down, I had to kind of step up and learn how to be that vocal leader for the defense. And along with that, just kind of step into a little bit of a coaching role and help some of these younger guys step up and get ready to play week after week. And I think that was crucial for me in my growth, personal and also as a leader and as a player. And I think that this season I will see a lot of good come from that.
Last thing I've got for both of you guys, we're going to hear from Coach Sherrod coming up here in a little bit. You guys have been around for a while now with this program. As I mentioned earlier, Jordan, the coaching staff continuity has been such a strength for this program for many years at this point. Whether it's Coach Sherrod, Coach Watkins, Coach Semino, someone else, tell us something about the coaching staff, position coaches, coordinators, whoever we don't know yet.
Well,
they're not here, so you can say whatever you want.
Well, Coach Watkins, I don't know if a lot of people know him, but he thinks he's the best at everything. And I'm going to beat him in golf coming up soon. We got to get that match scheduled. And I think I'd beat him in a lot of other things too, but he just wouldn't admit it. So he's very confident in himself, which is good and which I like about him. But if he hears this, he's probably going to send me a text right away. But no, he's a very confident guy, which I really like, and he leads by example. So
I'd say, I think Coach Oz just puts kind of his heart and soul into his players and into the tight ends and fullbacks and into anything he's doing. I mean, right now he's getting a master's degree and he has 3 kids and he's coaching football. And so he's got a lot on his plate. And so just the way he treats us and respectfully and tries to just give us the best chance we got to put ourselves on the field is big to me. And so
we are finally just a couple of weeks away from the start of the Washburn football season against Emporia State on August 29th. Breaking it all down, previewing it to Washburn standouts, Jordan Finney and Connor Searcy joining us from MIAA Media Day. Guys, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are Jordan Finney and Connor Searcy, a pair of starters for Washburn Ichabod's football. We are, as of today, 5 weeks away from the start of the Washburn football season against Emporia State. Of course, you can listen to every Washburn football game on our sister station, Country 106.9, with yours truly on the call. Upstairs with me, Fletcher Terrell, the Washburn legend, and down on the sidelines, Trenton Kraxner. Turnpike tussle to open the season. Fun way to kick things off.
That's fact. That's going to be a fun one. And it always is. But when it's week 1, that really ratchets up the intensity. No doubt about that. That's going to do it for this hour. 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. We're talking Chiefs. We'll talk to Rick Peterson and a whole lot more in the 3 o'clock hour. 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk. Thursday, July 25th. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, Trenton Kraxner with you this afternoon. Spencer Dupuy's on vacation. He'll be back next week. 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color, the moving picture, accessible on our Facebook page, WIBW News, and on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe today. Get access to our live and archived video content, including every day's edition of 580 Sports Talk.
I'm going to cry if you don't subscribe.
Don't make Brendan cry, guys and gals.
It's ugly.
Don't do it.
It is ugly.
We don't want that. If you're watching on the video, we would have to see that, and that's not
It's gonna make
anybody's.
everyone uncomfortable.
That's not anybody's idea of a good time. Yeah, I would have to leave the room. I wouldn't enjoy that at all. I deal with enough crying. I got a 7-week-old at home. I have enough crying in my life.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So subscribe to the YouTube channel, please, if you have not yet, and interact with us in the YouTube live chat as well. You can also text the program 785-272-9429. That is the Top City Metal Supply text line. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply is located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. So we're going to talk to Rick Peterson later on this hour. He'll join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around. We'll also play a round of either or over under. I want to start with the Chiefs this hour, and it's a day off today. So if you're looking for updates on the injuries to Justin Watson and Ozzie Johnson, we won't have anything on that till tomorrow. Chiefs will be in pads for the first time tomorrow, and we'll hear from assorted Chiefs personnel. Not sure who we're going to hear from after practice tomorrow yet, but we are going to hear from some Chiefs players, and we'll have that for you on tomorrow's edition of the show. So with nothing new from practice today to report, let's talk about a thing that's been an emphasis for the Chiefs throughout this camp, and that is turnovers. I want to play this clip. I got an audio clip of Steve Spagnuolo. He spoke to the media on Monday, and we played it then. And this was the very first thing he had to say. Somebody asked him right off the bat, because on that day of practice, the Chiefs were active forcing turnovers. I think Trent McDuffie had a forced fumble and an interception of Mahomes. They were going for the football, making a point to go for the ball. And somebody asked Spagnuolo about it right out of the gate. This is what Spag said on Monday.
Well, it was emphasized last night in the meeting because I didn't feel like we got any yesterday. I don't know if you guys were here yesterday. There weren't as many reps yesterday, but I did think that the defense kind of took it up a notch. Good observation.
When you get hit, you need to do things like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're always talking. We chart the number of punch outs or attempts to punch out because we just feel like if it's ingrained, that it'll show up. Now, last year we didn't get as many as turnovers, fumbles as we're used to. So it's been a big emphasis. And now I tell you what, the other thing that happens, I always say this, is it makes your offense better too. Because if they know our guys out there are going to be doing this, then they're going to tend to be high and tight.
So that was after Monday's practice from Chief Defensive Coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. I had forgotten just how poorly the Chiefs performed in the turnover department last year as a defense. They did so many things at a high level last year for 17 games plus the 4-game playoff run. But turning the other team over was not one of them. They were minus 11 as a team in the turnover department. They turned the ball over 28 times, and they only had 17 regular season takeaways. They had 6 in the playoffs. They had 3 in the AFC Championship game. So got a little better on a per game basis in the postseason, but still, you're talking about 17 regular season takeaways compared to 28 giveaways in those 17 games. That number of turnovers forced was tied for 27th in the league with the Cardinals. The only teams that turn the ball or that turn their opponents over less often than the Chiefs were the Falcons, the Rams, the Titans, and the Panthers. That's 3 teams that didn't sniff the playoffs, plus the Rams, who made the playoffs because they just didn't turn the ball over either. Their turnover margin was much better than the Chiefs at minus 11. The Chiefs' turnover margin ended up being tied for 29th in the league last year. That's the same turnover margin that the Patriots had. The only teams with worse turnover margins last season were the Falcons, the Vikings, and the Commanders. That is not company that we are used to seeing the Chiefs keep on a statistical basis. And that minus 11 over 17 games in the turnover department is almost certainly the difference between the 11-6 regular season record the Chiefs had last year and their normal garden variety 12-13 win season that we are accustomed to seeing from them. So it's little wonder that the turnover department would be an emphasis for the Chiefs going into this camp. The question is, can we expect a better performance in that department from this year's defense? And I suppose that's a question of degrees. Like, to what degree can we expect the Chiefs to be better at forcing turnovers?
Mm-hmm.
Last year, they recovered 9 fumbles of their opponent's 23 fumbles. Some of that's bad luck, right? Like, you would expect on balance to recover more than 9 of 23 loose balls.
Yeah.
But they also only had 8 interceptions. Trent McDuffie, who we all accept as a star.
Elite. I'll say it. Elite.
All pro. He also has as many career interceptions in 2 seasons as the 3 of us combined. Like, I know interceptions aren't the be all end all. A lot of times you don't have an intercept. You can't intercept a pass that's not being thrown your way because you're doing your job really well.
Mm-hmm.
But he had to have 1, right? Like,
yeah,
it's a little surprising to have 1. So how much can the Chiefs improve in that department? Because I expect the offense will improve on their own turnover margin this year. Can the defense get better at taking the ball away? And what has to happen for that to be the case?
So a stat that I'm looking at here that is, I think, maybe not more useful, but a different kind of useful than just looking at the raw turnover numbers. I'm looking at the turnover percentage. That is, what percentage of your opponent's drives end with you forcing a turnover, taking the ball away. If you go back to the 2021 season, that was the year the Chiefs made the AFC Championship game, but did not win the championship game. They lost to the Bengals, as we remember. The Chiefs that year finished 4th in the NFL in turnover percentage, 16% of the time. 4th best in the entire league that year. The next season, 2022, what I think might be the most impressive of all of Patrick Mahomes' seasons offensively. Do you remember what the turnover rates were like in 22?
Not off the top of my head.
They were 21st in that metric. So solidly in the bottom half of the league. That year, the Chiefs turned opponents over on 10.3% of their opponents' drives. So that, to me, sounds like, okay, that is water finding its level. That's the regression to the mean year. That is, hey, you finished 4th in that number. That's pretty good. But turnovers in general are right next to injuries as the most volatile built-in parts of football from year to year, even more than sacks, which are also very volatile.
Because many times it is about how the ball bounces. Fumble recoveries are certainly that way.
Tip balls.
A lot of times it's about tip balls in that determine how many interceptions you get or don't get.
So that was 21 and 22 to me. You went from, hey, you probably got lucky with the turnovers in 21 to, which actually makes a lot of sense because even though that team was obviously really good, we remember, Tyreek Hill suddenly forgot how to catch for a while.
Yeah.
Things were weird with that team. They were very good, but they were also very weird. So 22 was kind of that balancing out. And despite being in the bottom half of the league solidly, Chiefs were good enough still to win the Super Bowl. Last year, so after the regression to the mean, the Chiefs finished 25th in the NFL. Just 9.5% of opponents' drives ended with their opponents turning the ball over. That is really low. And there are some really bad teams who finished with worse numbers. In fact, only one playoff team finished with a worse turnover percentage than the Chiefs. That was the Rams. They were 29th. The other teams below Kansas City, Commanders, Cardinals, Falcons, Patriots, Titans, Panthers. The dregs of the NFL, essentially. And yet, the Chiefs were good enough to go on and obviously win the Super Bowl. So
they've got so much talent, right?
Yeah.
That you can sometimes outplay the marginal stuff.
Uh-huh.
You can out-talent the marginal stuff.
Yep.
The marginal stuff often is what can help a team with middling talent have a better than expected season or a worse than expected season.
Mhm.
But when you're as talented as the Chiefs are, sometimes you can out-talent your mistakes. And we've seen the Chiefs really do that a lot over the course of the Mahomes era. 2021 is a great example of that.
And having Mahomes obviously helps in that regard. So I gave you all those numbers, all of that context, all to say I expect the turnover numbers to get better for this team this year. Are they going to finish top 10 in turnover number, turnover percentage, turnover margin, anything like that? Not necessarily. But do I think they will be closer to middle of the pack? Yes, I do think that. I think when you have an extreme, when it's one of those things that is very volatile, you're talking about the three stats I just mentioned: turnovers, injuries, isn't really a stat, but injuries and sacks versus pressures. Those are all three things that if you have a truly great or truly awful year, I would not project you to have a similar production the season after. The Bears for a couple years had insane turnover numbers back to back to back. Then all of a sudden they didn't turn anybody over after a while. So another example of that group of stats, the Eagles, the year they won the Super Bowl, right? They had, the record for team sacks in a single season or close to it.
Like 70 some sacks. Yeah.
Last year, not great rushing the passer last season for the Eagles because that is a volatile stats. Various things, quarterbacks get the ball out quicker. They know to game plan for it more. Arm is going forward instead of being tucked, whatever. It could be any number of things. There are examples of that year to year. So the fact that the Chiefs had that water finding its level pair of seasons in 21 and 22, then had an even worse year with turnovers defensively the year after, makes me think that a resurgence somewhere around, 16 to 20 in the league is in the cards this year. And I wouldn't say higher than that just because Trent McDuffie is a lockdown guy who doesn't intercept passes. He's not a ball hawk. He's a lockdown guy. Maybe you're just not going to have a lot of turnovers when you've got guys like that. Snead was never a real big turnover guy. It's certainly not interceptions, fumbles more so than interceptions. But I think a return to the middle of the pack in that regard is certainly in the cards this year. Yeah. And if it is, that probably makes up for a defense that is running it back for the most part. And that is usually kind of a precarious position to put yourself in. They were pretty healthy, all things considered, last year, aside from Nick Bolton. So I would say that probably mitigates some of the regression that the rest of the defense in other areas might experience.
I think one of the other reasons you saw the interception number go down is because you didn't have as many games this last season where the Chiefs were way ahead. And as a result, you had to throw the ball down the field if you were going to catch up. The Chiefs didn't put opponents in that situation where throwing it's the only viable option on offense, and that's where you get a lot more of the interceptions. You get them late game. You get them when the quarterback's trying to make a play, when the quarterback's trying to push the ball down the field because you're down by 2 scores or 3 scores with 7 minutes left in the game. That's where you get your interceptions. And the Chiefs, because, well, one, they lost more games than we're used to them losing, but two, played in a lot more close games last season, didn't really put their opponents in a position where that's what they had to do was to put the ball in danger. And in games where they did win by multiple scores, that was where you saw them turn people over. Like turn the Broncos over 3 times when they beat them at home. They turned the Bears over twice when they blew them out. They turned the Chargers over twice when they beat them by 2 scores. Those were their only multiple turnover games of the season. In the regular season were those games. So I think that a better offense with fewer turnovers will lead to the defense being in position where they can increase their turnover numbers, at least their interception numbers, because they're going to be dealing with more downfield passing.
Mm-hmm.
The other point I want to make about McDuffie, doesn't have an interception yet in his career. He forced 5 fumbles last year.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Also, probably not super repeatable.
Maybe it is. What if it is? What if he's the new Charles Tillman and just has a knack for that peanut punch?
Well, that would be awesome. I will not say it is impossible. If anyone was going to be able to do that, it's probably Trent McDuffie. He has a nose for the ball without being great at taking it. I just can't imagine that's super likely.
Charles Tillman. This is year over year from 2005 to 2013 before he got hurt and finished out his career with Carolina. Forced 4, 1, 4, 4, 6, 4, 3, 10, and 3 fumbles. He forced 44 fumbles in 168 career games.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
As a corner.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how many guys it's a skill for. He's one of them. And maybe Trent McDuffie is the next one.
He is not going to be a Hall of Famer. Like 2 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro, 5th in Rookie of the Year voting. Like, that's not Hall of Fame stuff. A really good player for a long time. He also had 8 defensive touchdowns in his career, led the league in that twice. Really good player. He will forever be remembered for being the fumble guy, the corner who forces fumbles. Like, no one has ever been that guy before and might never be again unless McDuffie can follow in his footsteps. 10 forced fumbles as a cornerback is insane. That's crazy. So I hope for the best for him, that it works out that way. And that sounds like they're cutting him and like, oh, I hope he finds another job. Like, no, I mean, I hope for the best that he is able to continue finding a way to take the ball away. I just probably wouldn't bet on that. Are you at all worried about any of the rest of the defense taking a step back?
I don't think any. So they lost some guys who played a lot of snaps for them last year. They lost Willie Gay and they lost Snead, obviously, but I just think they've got guys ready to step in and young players that are capable of taking a step forward under the tutelage of their respective position coaches, like Dave Merritt doing an outstanding job with the defensive backs, Joe Cullen with the defensive line. I don't know if it's going to be as good as it was last year from Jump Street, but I think it's got a chance when it rounds into form. And we always see the Chiefs defense under Steve Spagnuolo get better as the season goes on.
Yeah.
I think it's got a chance when it rounds into form to be better than it was last year.
Oh, yeah, I'd say there's a chance.
Once you get guys like, once you get Menahu healthy, once you get whoever your new starting outside corners are up to speed, once you get some of the rookies up to speed, Shamari Connor up to speed as a full-time starter, I think there's a chance. I'm not guaranteeing it. I'm not planting my flag on this hill, but I think there's a chance because you've got young players, you've got a lot of upside, you've got a lot of athleticism, and again, I think that you might just with better turnover luck end up with a defense that's even better in the sense that forcing more turnovers gets them off the field. They allow fewer points, and they set up the offense for shorter fields and more points to help them put games away a little earlier than they were able to last year and more comfortably than they were able to last year.
So one reason why, and I know this sounds kind of bleak to talk about, like, oh, yeah, well, when the injuries come, do you know where the Chiefs ranked in terms? It's a stat from FTN Fantasy, which it does mostly fantasy stuff, but a lot of Football Outsiders guys right there now. Aaron Schatz writes there now. That's where the Football Almanac is now. So they have a lot of really good stuff. Do you know where the Chiefs ranked in terms of adjusted games lost last season? It's a metric for quality of player, number of snaps, a number of games lost, etc. Do you know where the Chiefs ranked?
I think they were probably on the fortunate end of that stat last year.
So being ranked first is super healthy, 32nd is super injured. Offensively, they ranked 10th. Defensively, they ranked 4th in terms of injury luck, essentially 6th overall. The year prior, they were 4th overall in that. Now, positive spin. Rick Burkholder is pretty good at his job.
Yeah.
Training staff, pretty good at their job. That's the positive spin. The negative spin is football injuries are part of the game. Like that, it is what it is. That's what it is in college. That's what it is in the pros. That's what it is in high school. They are part of the game. And the Chiefs have been really fortunate back-to-back years to have that much injury luck. I mean, this was a down year, and they were still top 6 in the entire NFL. Here's a comparison point for you, okay? The number one team in injury in weighted games lost this past season was the Los Angeles Rams. You know where they ranked the year before? So that would have been the 2022 season.
Oh, they were really low.
31st.
Yeah.
Second to last. The Raiders, they had the second best injury luck this past season. The year before, 20th. The 49ers, 4th this past year. The year prior, 24th. So I'm not asking for players to get injured. Far from it. I am just saying, statistically speaking, historically speaking, you go multiple years in a row where you are really healthy, the odds indicate you might not be forever, and you've got to be prepared for that. And I am a little bit more concerned about the depth for this defense than I was previously. That's really where my concern comes into play.
That's interesting. I still feel pretty good about the depth of this defense. I mean, look, they lost some top line guys.
Mm-hmm.
Snead is a top line guy. Gay was a starter. Linebacker depth, I think I might be right there with you. I don't want to see a whole lot of Jack Cochran or Cole Christensen this coming year. Like if you have to see a lot of those guys, that's probably not what you want. They're a little less deep at linebacker than they were. Charles Lemenahu's injury means they're a little lighter at defensive line or defensive end at least than they were last year. But like broadly speaking, I think that they're in decent shape. It might be unproven, but I like where they're at in the defensive backfield.
I agree. I think the defensive backfield is where I am the most comfortable. I love the draft picks. I love Haddon and Hicks. I think that's a good combo. I think the depth at corner is going to be fine. Whatever the starting group ends up looking like, I'm feeling pretty good there. Linebacker is weaker without Willie Gay. Whatever you think about him as a player, your current backups look like Cole Christensen, Jack Cochran, and a guy named Cam Jones. I don't know anything about Cam Jones. That's a new one to me.
Good special teamer, I believe.
Yes, you are correct about that. Defensive line wise, like Chris Jones is maybe a Hall of Famer. George Karlaftis, really good player. Mike Dana, unsung hero kind of player. You're not going to have Charles Lemenahu for probably quite a while, as you already laid out. Can Felix Anudike-Uzomah be edge 3? We don't know. I mean, that's totally up in the air. Mike Pennell, love the dude. Love Mike Pennell. He's another year older. He's never been the most explosive athlete in the world. BJ Thompson, who knows if he's going to play, when he can play. That's depth. You drafted him to be depth. Neil Farrell, they traded a pick for him, and he played like 4 minutes of game time. I like Malik Herring. He's never really done anything, though, since making the team. And let's not forget, on the interior, Derek Nottie is coming off his worst season. I'm fine bringing him back, but he's coming off his worst year. So that is where I have my concerns about depth. Starting group in the front 7, not a problem. I'm not concerned about that group at all, even with Nottie coming off that bad year. If someone goes down, though, I do have some more concerns. More, admittedly, with the line than with the linebackers. The Chiefs run 2 backers or 1 backer more than pretty much anybody else in the league. So I'm less worried there.
Yeah, you really only need your 3 guys. I think you can live with that. Maybe 4.
Yeah.
You could probably that's probably a workable group, and then your other guys are special teams guys.
And honestly, the nice thing about the Chiefs having even 3, they still have one of the best linebacker rooms in the NFL. The fact that they've got 3, you can really mix and match. Like Bolton's going to be on the field a lot because he's the signal caller. But if you are playing against a team that wants to go more horizontal, maybe more speed, more athleticism, put Chanel and Tranquil out there at the same time. That's a really athletic linebacker pairing.
And Chanel's going to do some damage, I think, in the blitz game this year. I think he's
100%.
going to be hugely impactful rushing the passer. We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll have plenty more Chiefs to get to tomorrow when the pads are popping up in St. Joe, and we'll hear from select Chiefs players and coaches on tomorrow's edition of the show here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Rick Peterson is going to join us here in just a little bit for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around. But first, a round of either or over under is next on 580 Sports Talk. 3:33 on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Dan, Brendan, Trenton. Time for a round of either or over-under. A couple of veteran major league pitchers in the news today. Max Scherzer, 9 strikeouts, a season high, moved into 10th place on the all-time strikeout list. Surpassed Justin Verlander for now. Verlander currently on the injured list with the Astros. Max Scherzer, top 10 in career strikeouts. Also, Clayton Kershaw is back from the injured list, making his season debut today for the Los Angeles Dodgers. 2 scoreless innings so far for Kershaw. They're in the second inning in L.A. The Dodgers and the Giants are scoreless. If you could only have one of them their whole career, Scherzer or Kershaw?
Kershaw. I'm a Kershaw guy. Always have been. I know
partial to the lefty myself.
Yeah. I mean, I know the injury problems are worse for him than they are for Scherzer. Scherzer's been incredible, but I'm going Kershaw.
So the comparison between the two entering today's game, so not counting anything that happened today, it's really tight in baseball wins above replacement. Kershaw with like a 4-win edge historically, even though Scherzer has thrown more innings. Kershaw in his career, 210 and 92 with a 248 earned run average. Scherzer, 215 and 111 with a 3.16 earned run average. Scherzer with more strikeouts, a higher strikeout percentage. Kershaw, 56 strikeouts shy, now 54. He's got 2 early today of 3,000. Scherzer at 3,400 even after his performance today. It's pretty close, and it is. It's kind of choose your flavor. I've always been partial to the lefty, even though Kershaw owned the Rockies.
Yeah.
No hit them once back in, I want to say it was 2014. But yeah, my lean would be Kershaw. Trenton, you're a baseball guy. Which one would you rather have had, Kershaw, Scherzer?
Wow.
No wrong answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Scherzer because I think he's came up more times, although he hasn't necessarily been that great. He's came up more times in the playoffs in the clutch than Clayton Kershaw. He turns into a pumpkin during the month of October. It seems like. How many times has he been on the bad side of baseball history for the Dodgers? It seems like.
That is the one knock, is that it's not a lot of tough luck losing for Kershaw in the playoffs. Sometimes, but there have also been some real duds out there too.
No, that's true.
Real quick before we get to Rick Peterson, would you rather be hit in the head by a small but solid rock or by a regulation-sized basketball?
In the head? Like,
yeah.
Do I get to choose where? Like in the face? Is it in the face or just like side of the head?
Somewhere on the dome.
Like from how far away?
8 feet.
I take the basketball.
Really?
Little more give.
Yeah.
A little more give.
Rock might be kind of pointy,
kind
of jagged.
You're kind of rolling the dice with the rock.
Yeah, you are. I think I'd take the rock, though, honestly. I'd rather have the smaller area. I'd rather have a little pain on a smaller area than, a full-fledged concussion. I've had one. Not fun.
No, I wouldn't think so. We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. On the other side, Rick Peterson of TopSports.News joins us for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. This is 580 Sports Talk. Pleased to be joined, as we are every Thursday at this time on 580 Sports Talk, by the great Rick Peterson of TopSports.News, where they cover all things Shawnee County High School sports and Washburn University athletics. You can find Rick on Twitter at Peterson_Rick. And again, check out his work at TopSports.News. Pistol, we're getting close to the end of your top 100 male and female athletes list over at the TopSports.News website, and asked you last week what the feedback has been. Now that we've seen even more athletes, we're into the top 20 now on the women's side. What has the feedback been like as the list has continued?
Well, I think a lot of people are paying attention to it. The numbers show that, and the people I run into in person seem to be enjoying it. I don't, I'm not sure everybody, or anybody agrees with all the numbers and the picks. But on the other hand, I think everybody does appreciate the fact that we're honoring 200 local athletes, and I think that's the biggest takeaway from this is we're getting a chance to really pay attention to some great milestones and some great performers and performances in local sports.
The women 11 through 20 were published today over at TopSports.News. So we're into the top 20 in the top 100 female athletes in Shawnee County history list. And what stands out about the list of athletes you wrote up today, there were a handful of them that never had a chance to excel in high school sports because they simply did not exist at the time that these athletes were active. But as you were writing up, Barbara Sipes, number 19 on the list, Ruth Fairbank, number 18 on the list, and Judy Dyer, number 11 on the list. I have to imagine there's a tinge of regret for all of those athletes that we never got a chance to see what they could do in KSHA competition, in addition to how decorated they became elsewhere as athletes.
Yeah, and I'm sure there have to be. Those ladies, some of them missed it by quite a bit, and then some of them missed it by a few years. And they were able to carve out great careers. But yeah, it would have been. I've always said that one of the most things to me about high school athletics is the camaraderie and, the teamwork and all that. And I think you kind of miss that. Even the athletes that play club sports and things like that. I just think high school has that certain amount of togetherness that you don't get. So I'm sure those ladies missed that. Judy Dyer was an easy pick. She went to the Olympics, and, it was cool to honor her right as we're starting the Olympics. And then the other two, Barbara Sipes, and there's a picture of her just towering over the two other ladies in the picture. She was a 6'3" post player at a time where, those were hard to come by. So she was fun. And then Ruth Fairbank was just a star in everything she did.
Yeah, I need the book. I need the biopic on Ruth Fairbank, who, according to your write-up, if you don't mind me quoting you here, Pistol, was regarded as one of the state's leading all-around sportswomen, winning numerous city and state titles in softball, tennis, basketball, and bowling. Says she was a left-handed shortstop for a state championship softball team, was an All-American in basketball, and played recreational golf and bowled recreationally into her 80s. That is a life and a sporting life well lived. I reading this, I know that was the goal of part of the goal of this project was to draw some interest and attention to athletes of generations past. I need more Ruth Fairbank info. Like I need a film. I need something.
Yeah, and that's exactly you hit it right on the head. A lot of these athletes, particularly as we get higher and higher, everybody knows those names, but some of these people, I bet there's a lot of people out there maybe didn't know who Ruth Fairbank was, or maybe didn't know who Barbara Sipes was. Hopefully they might have known who Judy Dyer was just because she was an Olympian, but that's probably the most fun for me, is bringing up some names that maybe not everybody, maybe isn't a household name for everybody.
We're talking to Rick Peterson of TopSports.News. He joins us for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around at this time every Thursday here on 580 Sports Talk. Yesterday, we saw numbers 21 through 30 on the top 100 male athletes in Shawnee County history list, and you should have called that the WIBW section. We saw Ron Paradis at number 21, Mark Elliott, number 28, It's a shame me and Jake LeBon didn't grow up in the area. We weren't eligible. But yeah, those are names certainly that ring a lot of bells for their on-air work over the years. But obviously, Mark Elliott, wonderful athlete, very accomplished, and Ron Paradis could really play too.
Oh, Paris was a legend. I mean, he's still a guy that a lot of people talk about from his days at Washburn Rural. Just a great shooter. If they had had a 3-point goal back then, he might have set records that might never have been broken. I mean, he was one of those guys that just came across half court and could fire it up, and more times than not hit it. And but he was great broadcaster and just a interesting guy. I mean, I'd walk in, we were great friends, and I'd walk into a restaurant or a bar with him, and everybody knew who Ron Paradis was. Nobody knew who Rick Peterson was, which was fine, but everybody knew who Ron Paradis was, and it was cool.
I have a quick Mark Elliott anecdote. I've had the occasion to play golf with Mark. And of course, Mark, an outstanding golfer who's qualified for the U.S. Senior Open. And the first time I got to play golf with him, he imparted on me a piece of advice that I've never forgotten. And it sounds very simple. And I'm sure if you know Mark, you can hear him say this in his very matter-of-fact way of speaking sometimes. The ball's going to go where you hit it. That's what he told me. And I hit a terrible shot, and, I'm blaming my swing or the wind or whatever. He said, the ball will go where you hit it. And it makes a world of sense, right? Like now, if I tug my approach way to the right, I play left-handed like Mark does. I know that's where I was lined up and where I swung to hit the ball. And if I don't want to do that next time, I got to fix those things. It's not my swing. It's not my mechanics. The ball went where I hit it. So shout out to Mark for that advice, and also for selling me the 3-wood that I still use, and it's the most reliable club in my bag. I hit the crap out of that thing. So
there you go.
Big shout out to Mark for that as we continue our conversation with Rick Peterson of TopSports.News here in the Lewis Toyota High School whip around. A couple of more modern names that myself and Brendan Dworzinski had a chance to follow in their time as athletes here in Shawnee County. Kai Thomas came in at number 30 on the men's list, the Topeka High standout. Really good basketball player, but of course a wonderful football player, the all-time city rushing leader. Sat out last year of college football because of the transfer rules, but he's going to get back on the gridiron at Kent State this year, and boy, I can't wait to see him resume his college career.
Yeah, myself too. And the thing about it, Kai is one of the youngest people on the list, and very deservedly so, and could even been higher. When you get down to that top 50, but definitely the top 20, top 30. Boy, it's just kind of a crapshoot about, what numbers you put them on, because they're all very, very deserving.
On the girls list, Brooklyn Hunter from Hayden mentioned today, number 16 on the top 100 female athletes list, and 4 state tennis titles at the top of her resume, but was on a volleyball state championship team and was a really good basketball player as well. Just one of those tremendous all-around athletes and excelled in the individual sports.
Yeah, 7 total titles, 4 in tennis, as you mentioned, and actually 3 in volleyball. So she was very, very good. And then, like you said, a very good basketball player. That was kind of her third sport, but she was very good at that. And again, another fairly young person. That's the hardest thing I went through, Dan, trying to decide where these younger people fit in as opposed to the Ruth Fairbanks and the Barbara Sykes and Judy Dyer's neck group.
Chatting with Rick Peterson. We call him Pistol. He joins us every single Thursday at this time for our Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around here on 580 Sports Talk. Check out Pistol's incredible work and the top 100 lists over at TopSports.News. We'd be remiss, Pistol, talking about some of the, the elder statesmen and women of the top 100s that have come out the last couple of days. If we didn't get to Sir Richard Duff Cooley, I'm going to be honest. I know about the great baseball tradition in Shawnee County. I did not know about Duff Cooley.
Yeah, and how about that? If you're in bio, which I'm sure what a great career. I mean, 3 or 4 in back
We're chatting with Rick Peterson again from TopSports.News, joining us here for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Round. Pistol, I did want to get to a little Washburn football here, too. You and I were both at MIAA Media Day in Kansas City this past Tuesday morning. What were your big takeaways from what we heard from Craig Schurig, Connor Searcy, as well as Jordan Finney?
Well, I think, yes, they were probably deservedly picked number 9 last year when they were. I'll tell you, higher, and I did that. I remember that early really was right out of that. Surprised a lot of people. I really, of course, my guarantees don't mean it.
Rick Peterson of TopSports.News joining us for the Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around. Joins us every Thursday at this time on the program. Again, continue to check out the list of the top 100 male and female athletes in Shawnee County sports history as they continue to go up. By the time we talk to Pistol next week, all will be revealed, and we'll talk about his choices for the very top of the list. Pistol, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for your time. That is Rick Peterson. We had a little technical problem there at the end. Apologize for that, but always great to chat with Pistol, and it's been really fun to read those lists, those top 100 lists. He was talking there about Washburn too, and he has the same feeling that I think you had, and certainly that I have. That 9th in the league feels like a slight that this program is going to take personally.
This is a really proud program. This is a really proud head coach in Craig Schurig, and it's got talent. This roster does. Trenton and I were just texting about this last night. There's plenty of talent on this roster, a lot of local talent too. And the hope is that you can take that slight and use that as momentum this year so that this very talented freshman class and even sophomore class this program has can get a little experience, can get a little development. And then by next year, when everybody is another year older, another year bigger, another year more experienced, they can really take off. And I'm excited to see what this team can do. Obviously, you want to talk about staying healthy, but if you want to look at things positively, this roster was obliterated by injuries a season ago. Jordan was one of them. We heard from Jordan Finney a little bit earlier on, talked to him about the injury recovery. You've got so many dudes who missed so much time a season ago who are back, who are going to be on the field. And if you're playing the probabilities, you're playing the likelihood game, they're likely not going to have to deal with that number of injuries again coming up this season. And hopefully that's the case. And if that is the case, this team's going to be in a really good position. But the positive thing, even with all those injuries a year ago, and we talked to Craig about this a little bit when we heard from him earlier in the week, that meant a lot of experience for young guys. Sam Van Dyne, who has the inside track to start at quarterback this year after starting for much of last season. Trenton, you remember this. Game 2 of the year, he got pushed into duty when Kellen Simoncic got hurt.
Yeah, it was like the very first drive of the second half against Southern. Simoncic broke his collarbone, and Van Dyne, you could tell he got more comfortable as the game went along.
So he's a true sophomore, but he's an experienced sophomore. He's got a full season effectively of starting under his belt. So I'm looking forward to this season. And again, we're just 5 weeks away from the start of the year. Pistol, by the way, has some great writing from Media Day. You can go find right now at the website. That's TopSports.News.
And if you missed our conversation, Brendan's conversation with Jordan Finney and Connor Searcy from earlier today, or from his chat with the head coach Craig Schurig, which we aired on Tuesday, you can find that on our podcast page at 580wibw.com. Just hover over that podcast tab and click on 580 Sports Talk. That's going to do it for this 3 o'clock hour of the show. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we're going to talk KU K-State football. What does ESPN think the biggest concern / question mark is for both of those programs? What do we think? Does ESPN have it right? We'll discuss what those question marks are for the Jayhawks and the Wildcats. We'll also have 2 news stories on what is wrong with you and a long-term peek at the NFL. How different will the AFC landscape look in 5 years' time? We expect the Chiefs certainly to still be in the mix. What about the rest of the AFC? How different will it look? We'll discuss that here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio coming up in this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 3 of 580 Sports Talk. We are halfway home. We got 2 more hours with you on this Thursday afternoon, taking you until 6 o'clock today. Royals are off today before resuming their homestand tomorrow night, beginning a 3-game series with the Chicago Cubs. And I've got one more family 4-pack for that game at the DM Injury Law Royals ticket window yet to give away today. So be listening for your cue to call for that. I'm Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski is with me in studio. Trenton Kraxner is across the glass, our producer-engineer. Spencer Dupuis is on vacation. He will be back next week. Still to come on the show today, 2 new stories on what is wrong with you. We're going to talk long-term outlooks for the rest of the AFC and the NFL in general. Got some 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll talk about what else is going on around Major League Baseball. Your scoreboard watching for today is done if you're a Royals fan. It was good news today. The Guardians lost. It was bad news if you're Brendan's wallet because the Tigers won as they continue their pursuit of, what is it, over 80.5?
81.5.
81.5.
51 and 53 with the win today.
You're going to be fine.
They have 58 games left, and they have to win 31. They have to win, yeah.
You're going to be fine. The Tigers are not going to finish with a winning record.
31 and 27. How good they have to be?
You have nothing to worry
So I need
about.
them to go 30 and 28 or worse.
I'm not willing to eat a sock about it like I was with regards to the Jets winning the Super Bowl, but I'm fairly confident you're going to be just fine.
Yeah, they got 7 with the Royals left. So big stakes for games for you there.
When are those games coming up?
I know they have one right at the beginning of August, like the first couple days of August. They're in Detroit for 4, I think.
All right. So they've got those 4 early next month. So that's only a few days away at this point. Can you believe it's already almost August?
No. Doesn't seem correct.
What is it? Days go short, years go fast, something like that.
That's a fact.
First 4 days of August, 4-game setting. Wow! Royals going to play on a Thursday. All right.
I know.
This time next week, we'll be getting ready for Royals baseball. How about that?
I know one of those games is on Apple TV too.
The Friday game.
Yeah, it'd be the Friday game.
And then they will play the Tigers again in September at home, the 16th through the 18th.
Part of the last homestand.
Yeah. That's the penultimate home series of the year, in fact, for the Royals. So yeah, I'm sweating a little bit.
I also want to draw attention to a game that has just gone final deep in the heart of Texas. Rangers 2, White Sox 1. The White Sox are 0-7 since the All-Star break. They have now lost 11 consecutive games. They're 27-78. That puts them on pace to lose 120 games.
The Royals weren't even this bad last year.
That is 1962 Mets territory. And if they trade Garrett Crochet and Eric Fetty, they're going to do it.
I asked you guys this, I think, Monday or Tuesdays. Pedro Grafalgani is 100th career managerial win, which he only needs 12 more, or at the time, his 200th managerial loss, which was 25, which I think is down to like 22 now. And you guys both said the loss. He's not going to win 12 games before they lost 25.
The team reeks, man. They've got 1 good hitter, 2, I guess, if you count Tommy Pham, and who knows how much longer he'll be on the team.
Can't imagine for very long.
And then they got us 3 coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah, right. By the way, for those keeping score at home, your worst teams of all time. There have been, let me count real quick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There have been 12 teams all time that have finished with 110 losses or more. Only 3 of them have happened since, what comparison? Since the Vietnam War. That's what we'll go with.
The gold standard, of course, the 1899 Cleveland Spiders, who went 20-134. So we know at least.
Yes. I was only looking modern era. So
we know
add
at
another
least
few on there.
That the White Sox are going to outdo the 1899 Spiders. Shout out to Frank Bates, 1-18 with a 7.24 earned run average.
It sounds like Jordan Lyles last year for the Royals.
Got to eat innings.
In 153 innings, Bates walked 105 batters and struck out 13. You'll never believe this. It was his final year in professional baseball.
I'm shocked.
Speaking of Jordan Lyles, there's a Jordan Lyles news update that we haven't put out there today.
We do have Jordan Lyles news. I did not think it was possible to be this down bad, but apparently the Dodgers are levels of down bad I did not conceive were possible for them. because they have signed Jordan Lyles to a minors deal.
Imagine cutting James Paxton and saying, I want Jordan Lyles. Fate of the universe.
It's a little bit of hubris, right? Like, hey, we can fix it. We can fix anybody. We can even fix Jordan Lyles.
So the math works out. I'm going to be generous and round up for the White Sox here. They're on pace for 42 wins. That'd be 42 and 120. That would indeed, as you did you say pass or tie? That would be a better winning percentage than the 1962 Mets. But it would tie the all-time record in the modern era for most losses in a year. Your other teams, by the way, that have finished with a similar number of losses: 1909, the Washington Senators, 42 and 110. The 41 Phillies, the 32 Red Sox, and the 39 St. Louis Browns. Those last three all lost 111. The 52 Pittsburgh Pirates lost 112. The 1904 Washington Senators lost 113. Baseball in the nation's capital. Not great for a lot of history. The 2019 Tigers, 47 and 114. Wish they were playing like that now. The 2018 Orioles, 47 and 115. That Tigers team actually had a game canceled that they just didn't make up. And so they only had 114
They just didn't want to show up. It was
right.
Like, I don't want to do this no more.
The 35 Boston Braves, 115 losses. The 1916 Philadelphia Athletics, 117 losses. The 03 Tigers, 119. And then the 1962 Mets, who played 160 games and went 40 and 120.
Anybody remember the name of the pitcher who lost 21 games for the 2003 Tigers? He will probably be the last pitcher to ever lose 20.
Notable name?
No.
Like even for...
I was not alive.
Other than losing 20 games.
Damn it, Trenton. I wasn't like old, but I was very alive and conscious of baseball. No, I couldn't.
The 25-year-old left-hander Mike Maroth.
Oh, man, I do remember Mike Maroth.
Because he lost 21 games.
That's exactly. Well, yeah. Yeah, I remember Mike Maroth. The 2003 Tigers, they've actually made quite a couple of number of appearances recently. We were just talking about Brandon Inge last week.
Yeah.
He was on that team.
Like Carlos Pena was a future All-Star. He was on that team.
That team had future World Series winning manager AJ Hinch as a catcher.
Yeah, they sure did.
Some guys who I remember, like I remember Jeremy Bonderman.
Fernando Rodney went on to a really good career.
Yeah. Bobby Higginson was around for a long time.
Yeah, he was a good player. Dimitri Young was a good player. He was their best player.
Yeah.
Which, not saying much.
Future Royal Omar Infante.
Royal great.
They had a young Fernando Rodney on that team before he wore his hat sideways.
Oh man, I love the Archer. Who else was on that team who ended up having an okay, decent career? A few guys. Rodney, there was another one. Who did I just have? And I lost him.
You're Adam Barreiro.
Adam Bernero
went 1-12 that year. That's not as bad as 9-21 for Maroth.
I believe that's Rocky Gray, Adam Bernero.
1-9 Matt Roney out of the bullpen.
So
having a Roney.
He was 1-12 for that team, and then he ended up on the Rockies. The Rockies saw that and were like, yeah, that sounds good.
I need that.
They traded for him.
What did they give him? Like a printer? Dodgers a printer in return?
They gave him. They gave them a former top prospect in their system, Ben Petrick, who had started his major league career really brightly, but had stopped hitting, and no one could figure out why. Turned out he had Parkinson's.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's horrible.
Never played in the bigs again after 2003. Cursed team all the way around the 2003 Tigers.
They that year also traded before the season Randall Simon, who in 2003 would actually be worth negative wins above replacement. So I thought that would be a worse trade. He ended up a Cub in 2003. You know what Randall Simon is most famous for?
Assaulting one of the sausages during the sausage race in Milwaukee.
He leaned out of the dugout and whacked one of the racing sausages with a bat mid-race.
It was very funny at the time.
I was intrigued about looking through names, so I went back to the 1899 Spiders roster unit. You know they had two managers that year? They had a guy by the name of Lave Cross who went 8-30, and then their second baseman Joe Quinn became a player coach, and he went 12-114.
Man, if you're the player manager and you go 12-104,
he hit 286 at the plate though.
Yeah, he was probably their best hitter. Yeah, him or Tommy Dowd.
There were some great names on this. I mean, everybody from early baseball had a great name.
Harry Cauliflower.
Yeah, shout out to Harry Cauliflower.
Harry Cauliflower.
303 batting average.
Cupid Childs.
Shout out to backup catcher Ossie Schreckengost.
Patsy Thibault.
Outfielder Dick Harley.
Relief pitcher Crazy Schmidt.
Crazy Schmidt.
Kid Carsey.
I'm sure that was a not flattering nickname whatsoever.
No.
I'm sure they called him that for some.
You want to know what Crazy Schmidt's win-loss record was that year? 2-17. Then they had Jim Huey, who was their number one. He was their ace. He went 4-30 over 283 innings pitched.
Yeah, real ball. Taking the ball 32 complete games in 36 starts.
He had a 5.41 ERA, but his fifth was 4.14.
The team OPS for the Cleveland Spiders was 605. That's a 74 OPS plus. Rob Manfred only wishes he could dead in the balls this much.
They hit 12 home runs total as a team. They hit 12 home runs.
That wasn't even all that out of character for that era of baseball, right?
No, it really wasn't.
Wasn't the all... Correct me if I'm wrong. You might know the exact number. Wasn't the record before Babe Ruth showed up like 21, 27?
27. A gentleman named Ned Williamson had the all-time record for home runs, 27 for the 1884 Cubs. He hit 64 career home runs. He hit 27 of them in 1884.
Did you say Ned or Ed?
He's in Baseball Reference as Ed, but he's also known as Ned.
Okay.
So
no one's named Ned anymore. They're like, oh, hey son, who'd you meet at school today? Oh, I made a friend called Ned. No one's Ned anymore.
No, they don't have a lot of Neds.
Don't make a lot of them anymore.
Anyhow,
I can believe it because nobody is creative anymore, and they literally changed their name to Guardians just so they didn't have to change their signage and they could just add a couple letters to it. The Spiders was right there. It would have been unique. It would for pro sports anyway. It would have been very different.
Sold a lot of merchandise.
Oh my God, the logo would have gone berserk. And yet they went with Guardians.
And they said, well, we got Deans in place. What can we do with this?
Kids love Marvel, right? That's Guardians.
I mean, I kind of like Guardians, the bridges and the stonework outside of the city. I kind of like it.
I will not relent. It is dumb.
It's grown on me. You call them the guards for short. It's fine. I'm fine with it. Let's talk some football, shall we? Here on 580 Sports Talk, ESPN.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to keep this off track. Ed/Ned Williamson in his entire career had 64 home runs.
Right.
27 of them in one season. He never hit more than 9 in any other year. Had a year of 0 and multiple years of 1.
So I don't.
What anabolic steroids were available in 1884?
I don't know what was going on at Lakefront Park for the Chicago White Stockings in 1884, but they had 142 home runs as a team. The next year at Westside Park, they hit 54. So I don't know. Maybe they brought in a humidor. I don't know. Lakefront Park, the ball was sore. The year before, they hit 13. Then they hit 142. Man, there's probably a great story. Like
they had the wind tunnel back then too. They just brought it back this year.
Like, yeah, they actually brought the fences in, or like a portion of the grandstand burned down. So it was only like 200 feet to right field because there was just a pile of rubble.
Like a little league park. Just no fence.
I have to know. We got to get in touch with somebody at Sabre and figure out what the hell was going on at Lakefront Park in 1884. The ball was soaring. Coors Field got nothing on Lakefront Park.
No, it does not. Preposterous. That team was also managed by worst person to ever be involved in Major League Baseball, Cap Anson.
Yes, Cap Anson single-handedly responsible for the fact that there were no black players in organized baseball, organized white baseball from the 1880s until Jackie Robinson. Like, it is entirely Cap Anson's fault.
He's
in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Hall of Fame. We won't put Barry Bonds in. We won't put Roger Clemens in. A1 segregationalist Cap Anson in the Hall of Fame.
If you go to the Negro Leagues Museum, which it's the best sports museum maybe on earth, and if you don't learn anything else through that unbelievable building, you will learn that Cap Anson is a horrible person.
Absolute trash. Just a total trash human being.
Abner Dalrymple. 26-year-old starting outfielder.
One of Cap Ance's nicknames was the Marshalltown Infant.
Now that's hilarious.
Yes.
I would call him that all the time. Hey, infant.
Like the racist of racists in organized baseball.
That is correct.
Like, yeah, they've got like the quotes from him in the 1880s. Like, I'm not sharing the field with anybody of color. What and worse, much worse. So yeah, it's his fault. It's his fault. It took until 1947. I mean, he had help, but like it started with him.
Yes,
it really began with him. Anyway, let's talk some football.
All right.
ESPN the other day put out a list of the biggest question mark for each of their preseason top 25 teams. Kansas State and Kansas are both on this list. KU at number 22, K-State at number 17. K-State's question mark, depth at linebacker. Harry Lyles Jr. writes, the Wildcats have a relatively consistent build on both sides of the ball. If we're nitpicking, and it feels like it, you could look to the linebacker room and prefer more depth. There's talent in the room with Austin Moore, Desmond Purnell, and the addition of Jordan Riley from Ball State, but injuries forced this group to play more players than expected and might be a bigger problem this season if it faces those same challenges. I really like the names at the top of the list for Kansas State. They dealt with so many injuries, an inordinate amount of injuries last season at this position. If Austin Moore and Desmond Purnell and Austin Romaine and Alec Marenko are your top four, I think you're set. Like, I feel pretty good about the top line there. And if they get Asa Newsome healthy, that's even better.
Yeah, like Fitz was talking about yesterday, he missed so much last season. I'm fine with that, to be completely honest with you. I'm a little bit more worried, more than linebacker depth. I'm more worried about up front on the defensive line. I know they've added there. I like the additions they've made. I just am a little bit concerned about whether or not it is enough, especially in the early part of the season. Like Sayamalo, I just don't know. And Brendan Mott, good player, a really good player, obviously. They've got good players. They want to rotate. They want to use multiple guys up front. I wonder if that is going to be limited by just the talent limitations up there. That would be my number one concern, frankly.
See, for me, I think it's the chemistry on the offensive line. Like, I think they're going to be able to put out a good line by the time the season's about half over towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think they've got veteran guys. They brought in Easton Kilty, the transfer from I believe it's North Dakota State. Taylor Portier's played a lot of football. Carver Willis played a bunch last year. Hadley Panzer's back. Like, I like the collection of guys they've got. What might be a struggle early on is putting it all together, making sure you have your best five, and then what alignment is your best five. And you don't have a lot of time to tweak because Arizona's game 3, and you want to go to the playoff, you better win that game at home.
Yep.
Like, so they're going to have to, I think, make that chemistry work, because that's what was special about last year's offensive line. Yeah, you had an All-American, an NFL player in Cooper Beebe, but you had 5 guys who played together, who knew each other's rhythms and knew each other's tendencies and knew how to play together. This line is one you're going to maybe kind of have to figure some of those things out on the fly, and that's delicate when you're dealing with a first-time starting quarterback behind it. So I have faith that they'll find an answer, but if it takes some time, it can make for a bumpy ride to start the season.
That Arizona game, thankfully, doesn't mean, probably thankfully for both teams, honestly, doesn't mean anything for the Big 12 race. Well, for whoever the loser is, thank goodness that doesn't mean anything for the Big 12. The winner's going to say, damn it, I wish this meant something for the Big 12. But that's going to be a game. I think you've got to get, if you want, just to echo what you said, if you want to make it to the playoff this year, you've got to be able to pull that one out. And I think that is going to be quite a test for this K-State team. Arizona was able to keep a decent amount, not everybody, but a decent amount of their still eligible players from that great team last year. And I like not Brennan Marion, Brent Brennan, excuse me. I was thinking of UNLV's coach and the go-go offense, but I like Brent Brennan. I think that Arizona team is going to be good. K-State's got the potential offensively, and I've said this mostly in regard to Avery Johnson, but I mean it for everybody on that team. They've got the potential to be really good. I don't know about like top 10 in the country good. I think they can be among the very best in the Big 12 this year, though. The chemistry for the entire unit is what it is going to come down to. And I think that starts on the offensive line. You've got to protect your asset, your biggest investment at quarterback, obviously. But we know how much K-State's going to want to run the ball this year. Are they going to be able to block for that? Can the wide receivers continue to develop with Avery Johnson? I like this group of wide receivers, Keegan Johnson, Jace Brown, et cetera, Jaden Jackson as well. Is it all going to click? And if it does, and I think it will, at what point does it click? And I think those are the things that I'm not necessarily concerned about. I do think they are going to put it all together at some point. It's mostly just when is that point going to be?
For KU, Lyles writes that the question mark is backup quarterback depth. Not that this is a particular strength for most teams, but the lack of an experienced backup quarterback stands out with Kansas this year. After a couple of consecutive seasons with injuries to quarterback Jalen Daniels, not having Jason Bean this season behind the glass to break in case of emergency will be more concerning. We all know that, and we all accept that if an injury occurs to Jalen Daniels, Kansas is not in a great spot. If Jalen Daniels plays all 12 games, the bulk of those 12 games, Kansas's ceiling is much, much higher. Outside of that, because I do think that is a pretty valid concern. I think it's a concern for most teams in the country behind QB1. What Kansas had in Jason Bean was a luxury. That's not something most programs have at this point, is a backup quarterback with that much experience and that much juice. So that's a luxury. Outside of that, what would you say is the biggest question mark for Kansas this year?
I got to be honest with you. I don't think it's a matter of outside of that. I'm not especially worried about, like, if Jalen Daniels isn't going to play, obviously KU takes a big step back. Like, there's, well, you know, we all know the old line. We don't practice for bleep. So it is what it is. Cole Ballard was pretty good against K-State last year. He was not the reason KU lost that game.
Yeah, he played fine.
His first start as a walk-on freshman quarterback. I'm not especially worried, and I love Isaiah Marshall. I think there is something really special there with Isaiah Marshall. To me, without question, number one biggest concern is the edge. It is the defensive end positions. Jeremy Robinson, nice player. Who else does KU have at defensive end? DJ Warner, top-rated recruit that KU has ever had in the recruiting services era. Really excited for him. How many freshman edges are game-changing players right away? Not a whole lot. Like, we're talking Jadeveon Clowney type players. There ain't many of them, college players. Then you throw in also Dak Brinkley. I like Dak Brinkley a lot. Same thing, and he's even a lower touted recruit. Still great, but lower touted than DJ Warner is. By Job, excited about what he could be. He played one game last season at Michigan State. Started playing football late. Really raw talent right there. Dylan Brooks, transfer from Auburn. A lot of hype for him going into this year. I mean, banged up. He's been hurt. There's no guarantee he's going to play a whole lot of meaningful snaps this coming year. Dylan Woodkey, transfer in. Veteran, older guy. That's a positive. Transferring in from Youngstown State. How is that going to translate? For some guys, great. For some guys, not really. Dean Miller, been with the program for quite a while. Not very big. Worried about his size on the edge and if he's even going to make it into the rotation. You've got a lot of question marks. High ceiling, but a lot of question marks. And if you end up from that group I just listed off with more guys who need development time than guys who can at least do something positive right away, you're going to end up in a situation where you've got a defense that is not able to really ever get after the quarterback without blitzing. And that's going to make things much more difficult on the biggest strength of your defense, maybe your second biggest strength overall, and that's your defensive backfield. That means Kobe Bryant, instead of having to cover for 3.5 seconds, is covering for 5. Same for Romello Dotson. That puts more pressure on O.J. Burrows, Marvin Grant, and then the Dye brothers as your safety rotation. That is what concerns me the most, honestly. Because frankly, offense has earned the benefit of the doubt that I think they can at least stay with their head above water if Daniels gets hurt. Playoff team, Big 12 champion? No, that's not going to happen if JD6 isn't healthy. But stay above water, be a bowl team? Yeah, I'm confident in that. They can't rush the passer. I'm pretty worried.
Now, I'm right there with you, and the level of their secondary play should be high enough that they'll be able to wallpaper over some loss of pass rush production, but they have to find somebody. Either Jeremy Robinson takes that big step forward. Maybe it's one of the transfers. Maybe it's one of the young guys who just bursts onto the scene, maybe in a pass rush only role. Maybe that's a good role for a guy like By Joe. Yep. Like, third down, go get the quarterback. You're a third and long guy, go get the quarterback. And maybe that's a role where early in his career, he can go get half a dozen sacks. But they need that presence. They do. Because getting off the field on third down is always so vital because you want to get the ball back in the hands of Daniels and that offense. Let's take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, 2 news stories compete on what is wrong with you here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studios. This is 580 Sports Talk. It's time for What is Wrong with You here on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studios. 2 news stories today competing to try and take down the chicken strip chaos. The woman who was upset that she got shorted a chicken strip at the Jack in the Box, so she came back 3 days later looking for her missing chicken strip. She was supplied the chicken strip, but no ranch, so she spit in the manager's face and backed into her with her car on her way out of the parking lot. That is doing a lot over a Jack in the Box. I have no idea. I've been to a Jack in the Box like once. I had the tacos, 2 tacos for $1.
Tacos look like cat food. They're so gross.
Hey, there were 2 of them, and they were $1. And I was hungry.
Yes, for a reason. There's a reason that there are 2 for $1.
This was in Austin, Texas. My flight landed late. Nothing else was open. It was 11 years ago. My standards for what I put in my body were substantially lower.
The only Jack in the Box I know is in this area is out by Legends. It's the only one I know of.
Yeah. You gotta go ways out east. I don't know if they've got any like in the Denver area, but
they've got a couple along 70 throughout the state of Missouri. I've shared my Jack in the Box story before. I got a hair in my food driving home from the NCAA tournament in Louisville in 2016. I tweeted about it. They DM'd me immediately from the official Jack in the Box account. Like, oh man, This is terrible. Give us your contact info and we'll reach out to make it right. Never heard from him again. I got beef with you, Jack.
That's tough. Yeah, that's our current active winner. Woman upset about a missing chicken strip. Your story first today, Brendan.
All right, my story is going to take us to California. When you've done this as long as we have and had this segment as long as we've had, you get certain archetypes of stories, certain themes that pop up once in a while that, oh, yes, this story sounds familiar. Well, that's what we've got here. 4 Los Angeles County men were arrested Tuesday on federal charges of committing armed robbery, mostly of 7-Eleven stores in South LA, during a 2-month crime spree, with one of them allegedly posting a photo on Instagram of himself holding stolen cash.
Yeah, that'll do it.
The indictment unsealed Tuesday in downtown Los Angeles charges the defendants with 1 count of conspiracy to interfere with commerce by robbery, 1 count of interference with commerce by robbery, known as the Hobbs Act crime, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. 24-year-old Charles Christopher of Compton, D'Angelo Spencer of South L.A., Jordan Leonard of Torrance, and Tajar Rouse of Hollywood were also charged with various counts of Hobbs Act robbery and brandishing a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence. That's a lot of words, California. Christopher and Leonard were arraigned Tuesday in federal court. They're still in jail without bond. Rouse made his initial appearance Tuesday in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, it's a local story.
Spencer is also expected to be was arraigned yesterday. Violent gun crime leaves lasting emotional and psychological scars for victims, said U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada. Anyone thinking that violent robberies are a good way to make money should take note that there will be consequences for your actions. According to the indictment, the defendants committed a series of armed robberies last winter, mostly of 7-Eleven stores in South LA and Hollywood. The defendants traveled to the stores in a BMW, jumped the counters, took money from registers, and then placed them in a black Nike bag. One of the defendants, usually either Christopher or Leonard, allegedly pointed a firearm at a store employee or a customer and demanded either their cell phone or their wallet. You think it was like flip a coin? All right, heads, I get to do it this time. Tails, you do. On November 28th, then, following the robbery of a 7-Eleven store, Leonard posted a photograph on Instagram with stacks of cash, captioned, quote, "Love my bros, we go hit every time." He also tagged the Instagram accounts of Christopher and Spencer.
Oh, man, they're going to beat his ass.
In total, the defendants allegedly netted about $7,600 in cash during the crime spree.
So what were the stacks of cash if they made $7,600?
All that? You got 7 bands? No, I ain't very good at this.
He's just got some 20s laid out?
Yeah.
He has spare cash, like a bunch of 5s.
Bro, are those 5s?
He got a band, he got 5s. He got like 100 5s.
There, a famous "What Is Wrong With You" story from a few years ago when we were introduced to up-and-coming rapper Pooh Shiesty and his crew who got in trouble for robbery. They were filming music videos with, hundreds and large sums of money. These dudes posted Instagram like, oh yeah, here's my wallet with 4 bills in it. Come on.
Wild.
What
All
are we
right.
doing?
That's gonna be a problem for Leonard. Those other guys better not see him.
No. You're gonna have to assign me another crime. We got battery coming next.
Do not brag about your crimes where people can see them. The internet is forever.
One of the commandments of What Is Wrong With You.
For my story today, we got an embezzlement story here, and this is about the stupidest thing you can steal money to do. A former administrative assistant at a Tuscaloosa Catholic church has pled guilty to embezzling money, much of which she is accused of using to buy gifts for TikTokers.
Oh, my God.
35-year-old Kristen Marie Battacletti entered her guilty plea on Tuesday in a Tuscaloosa courtroom to 1 count of wire fraud involving the theft of hundreds of thousands of dollars from St. Francis of Assisi University Parish. Her indictment was announced last week. According to federal court documents, Battacletti engaged in a scheme to defraud the church from April to October of 2023. Battacletti stole approximately $300,000 from St. Francis, using the funds to buy more than $220,000 in TikTok coins. What is that?
Yeah, man, you're on TikTok. Do you have TikTok coins?
I don't even know what that is. I'm on the app. Like, I think those are the people that like pay, and you can pay like streamers and stuff like that. Because like if you join someone's live stream, you can give them coins, which is things like just basically financial gifts, I guess.
Battacletti used the TikTok coins to send digital gifts to TikTok content creators In the scheme, documents state she initiated more than 600 unauthorized transactions.
Oh my God.
TikTok coins.
All right. You know what? I'm going to vote for this today. I don't say this lightly. I don't like to say this about another person. This is pathetic.
Ma'am, you are 35. Get off of TikTok.
Stop crumping and get a job.
She's doing that JoJo Siwa dance for the TikTok.
Like, stop watching a bunch of teenagers flossing into some song, and let's move on with your life.
TikTok coins. The church doesn't need this money. Poor people don't need this money. God doesn't need this money. You know who does need this money? My favorite makeup influencers.
That guy who said he was going to drink a fizzy soda and then burped and hit his head on his garage door. That guy needs $200,000.
I want to give TikTok coins to the guy who sees how many graham crackers can support him on a pull-up bar.
Yeah, this wins today. This is so pathetic. I can't believe it.
I almost think it wins the week. Like,
you're 35. Get a job.
You embezzle from the church, which is like terrible human behavior. But then you're giving it back to the community. Your community just happens to be TikTok.
You're 35. Get a job. Meet Alan Bowman this October.
Wow. Oklahoma State quarterback catches the wild stray. What is wrong with you?
Man, Alan Bowman and Brian O'Nora getting destroyed on this program today. This is like a monthly championship matchup.
Yeah.
This woman is truly pathetic. I'm sorry.
TikTok
it's true.
coin.
Who's Roger?
Not even real money. Like, you gotta buy like tick bucks.
This sounds like the Dave Chappelle Disney dollars
like
bit.
Usher bucks.
This reminds me of Roderick Wilmot from one of my first weeks here. The Indiana OnlyFans man.
Yeah. Stealing from the youth basketball program to buy OnlyFans subscriptions.
Hotel stays. Who you got for the week? This is tough.
TikTok coins.
Oh my
the
God.
Concept of stealing money from a church.
From God.
You stole money from God. You stole people's tithes, and you turned around and tithed to the woman who shows you how to do a smoky eye with Meghan Trainor playing in the background.
Wow, I love the mannequin challenge. This person needs 10 grand. You know what? I'm voting for this.
I am too.
This woman is an idiot.
The Lord said, follow for more tips, says Paul in the YouTube live chat.
Good Lord.
The TikTok tither. That's going to be our new weekly winner here on What Is Wrong With You. We're going to take a break, come back, talk a little more football from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 Sports Talk. So we did some more digging on our What Is Wrong With You champion during the timeout.
It all makes so much sense.
Dan, Brendan, and Trenton with you. The TikTok tither, Kristen Marie Batacletti, spent $220. She embezzled $300,000. Okay,
From God,
from the church, from the Catholic Church, and like, okay, obviously, if you're stealing money, you need it, right? Like that's the thing. If you're stealing anything, you must need it. There's I know kleptomania is a real thing, but generally speaking, if you're stealing something, you need it.
Mm-hmm.
$80,000 for personal expenses. $220,000 for TikTok coins. This is like the meme when Drill's talking about spending money on candles. Please help me budget this. My family is dying.
To clarify, TikTok coins allow users to purchase gifts for their beloved creators during live streams. As creators amass these virtual gifts, they can exchange them for real money. The act of sending gifts during live streams triggers an on-screen notifications visible to everyone, including the content creator. So that's what TikTok coins are.
Food, $200. Data, $150. Rent, $800. TikTok coins, $220,000. Utilities, $150. Someone who is good at the economy, please help me budget this. My family is dying.
Spend less on TikTok coins.
I am in awe.
We found her Instagram. That's been scrubbed from the internet. We also found her on Twitter, and the hashtag makeup is life is part of her bio. So yeah, she was tipping like makeup tutorial influencers on TikTok. It had to be.
Lady, just go to WikiHow if you want to learn how to put makeup on. This is crazy.
She also tweeted at somebody about Marcus Freeman, the Notre Dame head football coach, 3 years ago. So we got some like Jonas Brothers content here.
Yeah, I saw the Jonas Brothers content.
Yeah, but all the other tweets are like she's trying to win contests for money. It's very obvious that she is in need. She's looking for some funds.
Yeah. Like, hey.
But when you finally get your hands on them, you turn around and, I mean, I guess that is there is something, yeah, that's an act of Christian charity, right? You turn around, you've come into some money, you take care of your own, and then you redistribute to TikTok creators. You redistribute your wealth.
Yeah. That's like, okay. I would just feel
she
bad.
She probably thought, God's cool with this.
If she had stopped at $80K and was like, I need this to feed my family, I'd say, you know what? Robin Hood is treated as a hero. Okay, fine. Like, I feel bad for you that you're in this situation. If she had stopped there, not gone for almost 3 times as much to send to Jeffree Star or whatever.
Thou shall give more TikTok coins.
Yeah, which commandment is that? That's our weekly winner on What Is Wrong With You. We'll bring it back tomorrow.
That one just missed the second tablet.
This is turning out to be one whale of a month on What Is Wrong With You. It's going to be hard to crown a monthly champion next week. I wanted to talk about this. We were talking yesterday about who the Chiefs' primary rival is in the AFC, and still think it's the Bengals, even though they've maybe taken a step backwards or are prepared to take a step backwards because they're going to run into some difficult financial decisions in the near future. But at least they've beaten the Chiefs in a big game, which nobody else has done except for the Brady-era Patriots, and they don't exist anymore. So the Bengals, to that point, are the primary rival for the Chiefs. But the most prominent teams that have challenged the Chiefs for AFC supremacy these past few years, the Bengals and the Bills, enter varying states of uncertain futures starting this year, and really that accelerates next year for Cincinnati. This is Buffalo's take your medicine year. We've talked about it. They had to cut back on their roster this year and kind of reconsolidate moving forward with Josh Allen as their highest paid player. The Ravens, I don't think, have as good a roster as they did last year, and they've lost their defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald.
It's a really big loss.
The Dolphins do not have as good a roster as they did last year. Meanwhile, on the flip side of all that, the Texans appear to be ascendant. The Chargers have hired a coach with a proven track record for a change, not messing around with first-time head coaches who were overmatched.
Mike McCoy ain't walking through that door.
Yeah, they went McCoy, Anthony Lynn, and Brandon Staley. And now they finally hired a coach who knows what he's doing.
Jeez, there's 3 different flavors of turd there. My God.
And you got a lot of people on the Colts bandwagon because a lot of people believe in Anthony Richardson and hand up on one of those people.
And I believe in Steichen. I would like to see. Be cool if AR was good because he could be really fun.
So there's nothing to suggest the Chiefs won't continue to be an AFC power for as long as Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Brett Veach are in place. Will the top of the conference look dramatically different in the next 3 to 5 years? Or do you suspect that Allen and Burrow are both good enough and that the teams around them will be run well enough to keep those teams and the Ravens in that AFC mix, even as new contenders like Houston and the Colts and maybe even the Chargers rise up?
In order, if you gave me those three and said who is most likely to be able to retain that place, I would say the Ravens are number one because they've done it. As much as I like John Harbaugh a lot, I think that he probably deserves more criticism than he's got for not sealing the deal since Super Bowl 47 more than a decade ago now. But they're always lingering around the top of the AFC, it feels like. So I would put them number one. I'd put the Bills at number two, and I'd put the Bengals at number three. And it comes down to one of these specific things you just mentioned right there. Are those quarterbacks good enough? And are those teams run well enough? And the answer for Cincinnati, as has been the case since Paul Brown left the team, is no. They're not. They're starting beef with Jamar Chase is not smart, Mike Brown. That's not a good way to go about this. Not a good plan at all. I just don't. That's why I keep saying over and over, this is the last best chance for this part of Joe Burrow's career, I think, for Cincinnati to go and win a Super Bowl, because I think they have the ability to do so. I believe in Anarumo and a no-name defense to be good. And going out and fixing their safety room a little bit, bringing back Von Bell, and adding Geno Stone as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's right.
Big additions for them. I believe in that team. For now, you're not going to have Higgins. Trey Hendrickson's going to ask for a trade again next offseason, I'm sure. They're not going to extend him. Jamar Chase in a bad spot with them, maybe now? It just doesn't make any sense. So why you would handle your business that way. So I have the least faith in the Bengals, even though I think Burrow is not all that far. I would put him slightly ahead of Lamar and slightly behind Allen. I think all three are really close together.
See, I have Allen and Lamar and then Burrow. And look, this is not a knock on Burrow. I think he's really, really good. But if you're telling me I'm starting with this quarterback and we'll figure out the rest, I think Josh Allen is much more that guy than Joe Burrow is that guy. I think with Joe Burrow, you're going to need to put something that makes sense around Joe Burrow. You're going to need to put elevator-type players around Joe Burrow to get the most out of him, where Josh Allen is the elevator for the Bills. He's the guy I think you can make it shake with, and Lamar to a lesser extent.
Yeah, I would say I think the thing that works in Burrow's favor, just to play the devil's advocate there, is I think you always know what you're building. Because similar to Russell Wilson, you're playing the Joe Burrow offense. So you always know what you need. It's just a matter of, are you actually going to pay for it? And the answer more often than not with Cincinnati is no.
We got headlines. We got some Royals talk. We got a trip to the DM injury law Royals ticket window, all coming up in the final hour of 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Let's get it. Final hour of 580 Sports Talk for this Thursday afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you being along on 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or if you're watching on our live stream, our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. Our Facebook page is WIBW News. Either place will allow you to watch along and comment along with the program here in this final hour. The Top City Metal Supply text line is open as well, 785-272-9429. Dan, Brendan, Trenton with you this afternoon. Spencer's on vacation. Spencer's got floor seats now for the Luke Combs show.
Yeah.
He got upgraded. He shared that with us earlier today. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I bet that's a fun show.
Yeah, hang out with you're not gonna hang out with the rabble. You can be down there with the hoi polloi.
That's what happens when you look like Luke Combs, though. It looks like.
Did he? I wonder if he entered a contest. We'll have to ask him.
I didn't know Luke Combs had a brother. That's what he's gonna get all night.
All night.
Hey, he said he got tons of free beer last time he went to a show. So.
Like he went out to like a bar in a town where he was performing and got free beer. Like the police were posing for pictures with him. It really is. If you haven't watched the stream or seen our buddy Spencer Dupuis, it is quite a resemblance between him and I guess he's probably dumbass Morgan Wallen, but like Luke Combs is one of the biggest country stars. I was gonna say the biggest country star. It's probably Morgan Wallen.
It's one
like,
or the other
by the numbers. Yeah, but like Luke Combs is like right up there.
Yeah, he's massive,
and Spencer Dupuis favors him quite a bit.
People, it's an icebreaker question, or it's like a Twitter prompt or whatever. Like, oh, what celebrity do people say you look like? I don't look like anyone. Yeah, I've never had a really good answer for myself to that question. Nobody's ever given me a good one. One time in college, I was told I looked like Chuck Todd from Meet the Press. What? Yeah, I didn't see it. Did you have a completely different body? I mean, yeah, but this was college. I was a couple dozen pounds lighter probably at the time, but no, I had like a patch of goatee. Like I just had like the chin patch. Man, you did go to school in the 2000s. I did. I really did. No, somebody said I looked like Chuck Todd, and I really had to I stared off into space for a while after that one. No, not even a little bit. No, that's a no. I had an ex tell me all the time I looked like John Krasinski, Jim from The Office. I don't look like him at all. As someone that watched The Office, that is untrue. I'd paint you more as Ryan if he grew his hair out. I can't think of the actor's name, but the guy that played Ryan on The Office. BJ Novak. Yeah, BJ Novak. There you go. Yeah, if he grew his hair out. Structurally, I could see that more. Yeah, and then I can't share this entire story because it would take a while, and also, let's just say I had a good time when I went to Tulsa for the NCAA tournament. Shout out to the now deceased Electric Circus Club. A woman I was dancing with said the same, hammered, like could barely stand up, drunk. She was like, "You look like Jim at The Office." Like, no, I don't. I don't know where this comes from. Was that the point where two people have said it? Was that the 2017 NCAA tournament? That was the 2017 NCAA we didn't know each other, and I was not invited to the Electric Circus. We did not. No, I was staying at a Super 8 in Sapulpa. No, I was actually with a mutual friend of ours, Jackson Schneider, who works out in Salina. Sure. Jackson and I and another friend of ours who were there for student radio, KU, KJHK. And we went out a couple times, and one of them we hit what is now like I think it's a gay club actually, but at the time it was known as the Electric Circus. And let me tell you, it was both electric and a circus when it was in its previous iteration. So we have a couple of thoughts here. The YouTube live chat. Jason says he sees the Chuck Todd a tiny bit with me. I'm gonna have to reevaluate some things. Also, he says you look like Matt Smith from Doctor Who I don't watch Doctor Who. I don't really know who that is. I think his facial features are narrower than mine. I sort of see it with my hair long, though. Also from the text line on 785, Brendan looks like the guy from the HBO series The Pacific, the actor Joseph Mazzello. Joseph Mazzello. He was Tim in Jurassic Park, so he's been acting for a very long time. I sort of see this. This is like if you mixed me with Ben Savage. I sort of see it. Dirtbag facial hair. That's accurate.
Yeah, that is. It's like you and Kieran Culkin smashed together.
Jeez. I vaguely see it. If you took kind of this guy's face and dirtbag facial hair along with the other guy's hair, I could see a comparison. That dude's only 5'9", though, which I do resent. I am 6'4".
That's fair. You got that over him.
Yeah, literally over.
Yeah, he may have been one of the child actors in Jurassic Park, but you tower over him. So you got that going for you. Still to come on this hour, 580 Sports Talk. We're going to talk a little more Royals baseball. We're going to talk concession stand food. The Royals kind of got pilloried for the Taste of the K taco dog or whatever the heck it was last week. They unveiled a good-looking food item in conjunction with their first baseman.
They did. It's a little much still, but it is vast improvement.
We'll also update you on the scoreboard watching, what little there was to do today as far as the Royals go, where they are in the standings. And I've still got a 4-pack of Royals tickets for Thursday or for Friday night against the Cubs at the DM Injury Law Royals ticket window waiting to be picked up. I'll let you know for your cue to call. But right now it's time to start with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll start by doubling back to a story that actually broke during yesterday's program. Former Topeka High star Nyjah Kennedy, the National Softball Player of the Year as a sophomore at Stanford, announced yesterday that she would be transferring to Texas Tech, ending a month of speculation about where she'd end up after she put her name in the transfer portal. Multiple reports suggest that the deal she has agreed to with the NIL collective, the Matador at Texas Tech, is in excess of 7 figures. We've seen 1.05 million, also heard reports up to 1.3 million. The previous high NIL deal for a softball pitcher was $175,000.
Pretty good chunk of change.
So Kennedy committing...
Not quite 10 times that amount, though.
Yeah.
9 times.
Kennedy committing to a program with the... Try to figure out how I want to say this. The general irrelevance of Texas Tech. Let's be honest. Texas Tech, generally irrelevant in softball. They have never been to a Women's College World Series. They have not been to the NCAA tournament since 2019. They have never finished higher than 3rd place in the Big 8/Big 12. Or I guess it would have been the Southwest Conference, way, way back in the day. They've never finished higher than 3rd in their own league. This is not a traditional power softball program that Nyjah Kennedy is signing with, which suggests that the money was no small part of her decision to commit to play in Lubbock.
Mm-hmm.
To which I say, good for you, Nyjah Kennedy, because this is the thing about women's softball. Remember the star player for the Oklahoma women a couple of years ago set the national record for home runs?
I was just thinking of her the other day, and I couldn't remember her name.
Yeah, you don't remember?
I can see her. I even recognize her face.
You don't remember her name, do you? Well, I think a lot of people have probably forgotten the name Jocelyn Allo.
Yeah, Jocelyn Allo.
But she was a huge college star. Do you know what she's doing now? She's playing softball. Do you know where she's playing softball?
In Wichita for Athletes Unlimited.
They were in Wichita at Wilkins Stadium not long ago.
Yeah.
She's also playing for something called the Oklahoma City Spark.
I know their play-by-play guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Shout out to Todd Miller. Who, funny enough, his Twitter handle is literally @play-by-play guy.
Man, he's the one that got that? Dang.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Shout out to him. The voice of Oklahoma Baptist, D2 reppin'. But yeah, I mean, that's cool to be able to do it. But the crazy thing about college softball is that it is still the pinnacle, essentially,
yes.
In terms of exposure, in terms of popularity.
And as such, when you are a college softball star, you are at the peak of your earning potential as a softball player.
Mm-hmm.
This is what Nyjah Kennedy does best. This is what she does better than literally anybody. She's got the National Player of the Year award to prove it. She should be compensated handsomely for her abilities while they are worth this kind of money. Is Texas Tech, is the Matador, the NIL collective, are they going to get their ROI on that $1 million plus that they're going to give Nyjah Kennedy for next season?
Yes.
Yeah, they are.
Honestly, they probably got a pretty, in terms of attention, on the program, they probably got more than they ever could have dreamed of in terms of return on investment just in the last 24 hours.
Oh, absolutely.
No one has. I don't mean this literally. I am speaking in hyperbole because people will get mad for saying this. No one has ever cared about Texas Tech softball.
No.
And that's a lot of programs. Like, people care about the California schools and care about Oklahoma and Tech, like schools that have always been good at it. No one's ever on a major scale cared about Texas Tech softball nearly as much as they have in the last 24 hours. That in and of itself is a major, major boon for that program. I said this at the time when Naja announced she was transferring, and I'm going to say it again right now. I don't want to hear any complaints about this because as much as I hear I preferred it better when you stayed at one school and whatever, like, okay, as I have said before, I appreciate the argument that as a fan, it is preferable to be able to root for guys or girls for multiple years and to see them grow as someone with your team. And it's easier to keep track of your team that way. I understand that point of view completely. I'm not ever going to be like, oh, these selfish kids. $1 million? Oh, $1 million for $1 million? I would go anywhere. I'm not above that.
No.
I'm going to transfer to Albuquerque if they're going to pay me $1 million.
If they were willing to write the biggest check, I do not blame anybody for taking the biggest check, especially when this is your chance to take the biggest check. This is your chance to make some money, to sock some away, to start building, some financial security as best as you're able. I mean, it's 1 year and $1 million. We're not talking about like Shohei Ohtani money here, obviously, but this is a big payday for somebody in that sport where the professional paydays have yet to materialize. I don't think that's going to be the case forever. Much like we've seen an explosion in popularity with the WNBA, I think softball might be next. I think there's a chance that we are talking about a thriving women's professional softball league by the end of this decade.
Ooh, softball before volleyball?
Well, there is a professional volleyball league.
There's actually 2. Did you know that?
I didn't know they were
that are now like competing against. I'm sure that will become one very quickly.
There are also 2 like major women's soccer leagues now, but like there's one of them on TV, right?
Oh, is there one other than
There's the USL, I think, has a women's division, USL Elite or something like that.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I only knew about the
they're not
NWSL.
They're not playing yet. Is why you don't know them.
Makes...
Why would you compete with the infrastructure of the NWSL? I don't know.
The NWSL is a good product.
Yeah, and it's on ESPN and Paramount Plus, and it seems to be thriving.
That's bizarre.
But yes, so you have seen, like, there is an audience for women's sports. As it turns out, crazy thought, women who make up more than half of the population, they like sports. Crazy, right? Women like sports. And men who like sports are not all turned off by the idea of watching women play sports. Because if it's good sports, if we're sports fans, we're going to watch it.
Yeah, I'll watch a good game.
So there's an audience.
I'll gamble on anything.
There's an
Let's
audience.
also add that.
There's an audience for women's sports. And that has been seen and established as the television ratings have gone up and as the dollars spent on the TV product have gone up, in particular for basketball and soccer. I think softball could be next. And I think in 5 to 10 years, there could be a thriving women's professional fast-pitch softball league in the United States that has a TV deal, that has some streaming, that the names that we've come to know from watching the sport in the Women's College World Series are able to go on and play professionally here in the United States. But it doesn't exist right now, which means your earning potential as a softball player peaks in college. And if Nyjah Kennedy is taking advantage of that peak in the best way that is possible and available to her, good for her. And I hope she's awesome at Texas Tech.
Yeah, she will be.
Yeah, I don't need to hope.
I don't need to
actually.
hope. Yeah, no, she's going to be
that's
that
real.
good.
Yeah,
she's a star. Next headline, first headline for me today. Let's get to some NFL news and notes, shall we? Cortland Sutton, number 1 wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. He had $1.5 million worth of incentives added to his contract. He's still under contract for another 2 years. But after he had been saying, hey, I want a new deal, had kind of been going toward a stalemate, the Broncos said, all right, how about some more money in incentives? Boom. So now his base salary of $13 million plus roster bonuses in place. He's going to make a pretty good chunk of change this season. We'll find out what his future looks like after next year. I'm the Broncos, I wouldn't pay him again, to be honest. I like Cortland Sutton, but he's a completely different player now than before he had his injury. So that's beside the point. But yes, that is the latest on Cortland Sutton. Good player. The Rams and Vikings both may have lost some significant pieces to ACL injuries today. For the Rams, that includes starting cornerback Darion Kendrick, who was a sixth round pick 2 years ago. Started 12 games last season, had an interception, and defended 10 passes. Good player. The Rams have added to that cornerback room this offseason. That's where Trey White ended up. Same with Darius Williams. But they expected a lot from Kendrick, and not having him is going to be pretty tough for that squad. Also, for the Minnesota Vikings, as I mentioned, Mekhi Blackmon is out. Day one of training camp for the Vikings, he suffered a torn ACL. He is out for the rest of the season. That room has been destroyed by both injury and tragedy, unfortunately, this offseason. Obviously, the ACL tear for Blackmon. Earlier this month, fourth-round pick Kyrie Jackson was killed in a DUI crash as the victim. Just absolutely horrible. They also acquired Byron Murphy as well as Shaquille Griffin during this offseason. That former K-Stater Duke Shelley was signed by them earlier on this week, and then just a bunch of nobodies in the rest of that secondary. They might not be very good this year. They got some nice wide receivers. I didn't give them enough credit when we talked about them the other day, but that roster is not all that good, and they might not be very good at all this year, especially with another big injury like that. Also, Jamar Chase is holding in. He is not practicing at Bengals training camp right now. He was asked today by a Bengals reporter, are you not practicing because of your contract situation? He said, no comment, and then did not take any more questions. Do with that what you will.
I don't want to overstate the impact that stuff like that, the holdouts and the hold-ins have on like team chemistry, because Chris Jones held out last year, missed a game that the Chiefs lost, and it did not seem to affect his relationship with his teammates one iota, and then the Chiefs went on to win the Super Bowl. So I don't want to overstate this. Great players are going to eventually show up if they do and be great players and help their teams win games. But when it's like multiple guys who are disgruntled walking around, like the Bengals have with Higgins and Chase, or the 49ers have with Ayuk and Trent Williams, that's a little bit more, I think, easy to see as potentially poisonous.
I would agree with that. Well, again, I mean, look at the team that's involved here. It's not a great situation if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. You want him on the field. You want him working with Burrow after they weren't able to do a whole lot during last season or for much of this offseason while Burrow recovered from the wrist injury. It's a very dumb team. They just don't handle their business. They fell pretty much ass backwards into having an incredible roster, at least offensively. And at least they made it to a Super Bowl, but they didn't win it. And now they're angering both of their top two receivers and their best edge rusher, and God only knows how many other players. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. Next headline for me. How about a little golf? The Olympics golf competition is next weekend in Paris, but this weekend, some players who are not heading to the Olympics are competing at TPC Twin Cities in the 3M Open. That was a nice round one for the professional sports franchise of Topeka, Kansas. Gary Woodland, a 5 under 66 for G-Dub. Bogeyed 17, but rebounded with a birdie on 18 to get in 34. A round with 6 birdies and just 1 bogey. A 5 under 66. That has Woodland in a tie for 6th. 3 shots back of first-round leader Jacob Bridgman, who shot a 63. It is not a star-studded field by any stretch of the imagination. Like, there are some guys people will have heard of. My guys to hit the gala, also 66 today. Tony Finau, who won this event 2 years ago, is in this year's tournament. But by and large, this is an event for guys late in the season who are trying to make that last push and get enough FedEx Cup points to get into the FedEx Cup playoffs and maybe snag a win that could reroute their season or their career trajectories. A good finish here would mean a lot for Gary Woodland, and he's off to a great start after playing well for 3 rounds at the Open Championship last weekend. 5 under 66 for G-Dub, day one in the Twin Cities.
Good for G-Dub. You can use win.
It's something to watch.
Yeah.
Something to pull for this weekend for sure.
Next headline for me. Let's do this one real quick from get a couple college basketball notes in here. From John Rothstein, sources indicate that the Big 12 and SEC are going to have all 16 of their teams participate in their respective conference tournaments in 2025. This differs from the ACC and Big 10, who have 18 teams in their leagues for basketball, but only have 15 teams make their conference tournament. We remember from this past year that not everybody made the Big 12 tournament when they only had 14 teams. That was kind of odd. Now with 16, it's actually very simple. But this would also mean, unless they get into some funky bracketing, this could mean the end of the pigtail games.
Well, in a sense, I guess the first round games are your new pigtail games. And you've got, 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds get double buys. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Do we know that for sure?
I would imagine this would be the
Okay.
16-team format they would use.
Okay.
Is that you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 get a double bye, and the 5, 6, 7, 8 seeds get one bye, and then 9 plays 16, 10 plays 15, 11 plays 14, and 12 plays 13 on day one. So you've just got, instead of a day where you've only got 2 games, you just have 4 games, 4 games, 4 games, 2 games, 1 game. That's a lot of basketball.
That is a lot of basketball.
It rocks. It rocks. I love it.
I'd just do 1 versus 16. 2 versus 15. I would just play a traditional 16-team bracket. Kemba Walker led UConn to a national championship playing 5 games in 5 days to win the Big East title. You can do 4.
Yeah, I get that. Like, on the other hand, though, the double bye, what that really helps you do is make sure you don't have
Your best
anybody
teams win.
steal your bid.
Yeah.
And you keep the best teams in the tournament longer, better chance of better matchups for the marquee network slots on Friday and Saturday. Like, I understand why. Like, that's what the ACC has done. That's what the Big Ten has done.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're doing 15 teams. Just do 16. That's weird.
It makes no sense whatsoever. We'll talk about the TBT coming up after our next commercial break.
Okay.
That's what we'll do.
That sounds good.
So we'll save more basketball for then. Do you have anything else before the Olympic roundup?
No, I don't. Are you ready for the Olympic roundup?
I am. All guns firing?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. The Olympic roundup. Thank you, 2-time Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. All right, 2 new sports got their competitions underway today in Paris. Again, the opening ceremony does not go on until tomorrow. I believe it is in 11 o'clock or maybe 11:30 start time locally. They're going to re-air it on NBC in prime time as well coming up tomorrow. The sports that began today, women's handball. Denmark, unsurprisingly, won. You stay up till 2 a.m. to watch that one?
Did not, no.
Yeah, they beat Slovenia. They're a powerhouse. The Netherlands also beat Angola in a thriller this morning.
I don't know anything about Angola, but I know Angola's in trouble.
Archery also began today. Just the men's and women's individual ranking rounds began earlier on today. We also had more men's football that continued on today. We also had more rugby sevens. Which is more embarrassing? The United States losing, 40-9 against Fiji? Or Kenya not scoring a single point against Samoa?
That's tough. Not a single point?
26-0.
I don't know. Do you see how many Samoans are in like the NFL and WWE though? Like they have to be really good athletes.
Yeah, great athletes there. Fiji beat France, by the way, who the U.S. tied with. France is like I'm trying to think of another compare. They're like the Iowa football of rugby sevens in the Olympics, apparently. They've scored 12 in 2 of their 3 matches so far.
You know who else didn't score in a match today? The United States. They were shut out by Australia in the quarterfinals, 18-0.
That's not especially good.
I watched this morning the United States play Uruguay, and I was convinced watching that Perry Baker needed an NFL contract like immediately.
Well, here's a comparison for you.
Then I looked it up, and he's 38 years old.
So the U.S. beat
He's
Uruguay.
my age.
Sign him up.
He's the fastest guy on the field. That's all I know. Speed doesn't know an age.
So the U.S. beat Uruguay. So did Kenya. 19-14. You may remember from 60 seconds ago, Kenya did not score in its first match of the day. So that tells you all you need to know about this part of the world's competitiveness in the sport of rugby sevens. Also, U.S. women's soccer got underway today in Group B of the women's soccer discipline. 3-0, the U.S. beat Zambia. They should have added a 0 onto the back end of the U.S. score. You should have won that game 30-0.
I think they were more than happy to put it in cruise control. Goals by Trinity Rodman and Mallory Swanson.
That
Swanson
is not
with a pair.
U23.
No. Olympic women's soccer, unlike the men play U23 with the 3 exception spots. The women just bring their best.
Additionally, tomorrow morning, before the opening ceremony, shooting begins. We will have the 10M air rifle mixed team pre-event training, and the same for the 10M air pistol men's and women's disciplines. I don't watch much of the shooting. I do enjoy in the Winter Olympics, though, the biathlon. What a bizarre sport.
It's amazing we're not better at that as a country.
How do we just not get a bunch of kids from Air Force and West Point to go dominate?
What country loves guns more than us, and we can't win every shooting medal? Come on.
Other countries love cross-country skiing more than us, I guess.
Clearly. That'll do it for the Olympic Roundup and for the 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll come back with more after this break on 580 Sports Talk, but first, it's time to check in with the DM Injury Law Royals ticket window. Have you or a loved one been in a car wreck? Contact DM Injury Law today and get the money you deserve. Car wreck? Remember, Mike's got this. I've got another family 4-pack for tomorrow night at the K. Royals and Cubs, 4 tickets, chance to get a Patrick Mahomes bobblehead if you show up early enough. I want caller number 6 to 785-272-9429. And folks, if you visited the ticket window already this season, stand down. Let somebody else win these tickets if you don't mind. You're on the honor system. 785-272-9429. Caller number 6 wins the tickets. Back after this on 580 Sports Talk. Congratulations to Bruce, our winner of the family 4-pack of Royals tickets for tomorrow night. It's going to see the Cubs and the Royals. We'll get a preview of that series, the Brendan Dworzynski Bowl, on tomorrow's edition of 580 Sports Talk. The Royals lost the Dan Lucero Bowl, lost 2 out of 3 to the Rockies in Denver. They have not yet encountered Spencer's beloved Washington Nationals, so the Spencer Dupuis Bowl is still upcoming.
All of our teams stink except the Royals. Yeah. It's made the Royals' success a lot more fun. I'll be honest with you about that.
I was saying that. I was watching the game last night, and my wife was with me with the baby. And I said, I had forgotten how much fun it was to watch games that matter in July.
Yeah.
It had been a long time. And just like every pitch matters. Every at-bat is important. You can feel the tension. Like in the ballpark last night, you could feel the tension. You could feel the excitement. You could feel the disappointment when McArthur gave up the home run to Marte.
Well, and it's even more different, too, when you've got a team where you think, we have a chance for this to be a regular thing. Like last year, the Cubs were in the thick of the playoff hunt, should have made it. They collapsed in September. But I never really loved the roster last year. They were a fun team, but it always kind of felt like, I don't know how much staying power this group has. And it turns out not a lot, because now we're last in the NL Central this year. This Royal, you've got your core. You've got your ace, maybe 2. You've got your superstar, maybe 2. And you've got at least a couple of good supporting players who are going to be around for a long time. Like this feels like a Royals team that's here to stay, at least in a competitive window. So it's a fun time to be a Royals fan.
100%.
I did want to get to the TBT.
Yeah.
You can't say the TBT, which is annoying.
The basketball
tournament. That's like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Or the Major League Baseball. That's why you can't say the MLB.
Right. Mass Street, the KU alumni lost. They were down early, really stunk out of the gate, came back, went absolutely nuts from the field in the third quarter, shot the lights out. I think at one point they were 9 out of a stretch of 10 from 3-point range, and then just ran out of gas late. Didn't go to the bench. I don't know any KU fan who doesn't just adore Sharon Collins. Sharon was coaching based entirely on vibes during that game last night. I'm not sure he drew up a single play the entire game. The final huddle just showed Tyshawn Taylor yelling and Sharon rubbing his face in his hands. So not really sure what the end of game strategy was, but it was a bummer because I really thought they were going to win, and I really wanted to see more of athletic Dedrick Lawson. That was cool. LeGerald Vick sharpshooter. That was cool. The coolest part about the whole thing, Frank Mason can go, dude. He is still the same player he was. Older, obviously, and has played professionally, but has the handle, has the speed, the toughness that he had when he was at KU. That was awesome. That's why I love this event. I know it, it's just kind of a fill-in summer event. All that's going on is baseball. Throw on some basketball, just keep it going. Maybe you remember some guys during it. But nah, man, Frank Mason can play. And I really think he could have stuck, at least as a bench guy in the NBA, if he was even 6'2" or so.
Yeah.
But being
tough at 5'11".
I was going to say, I think at one point he was billed at 5'11", if not still. Frank Mason is 5'11". And if you're not watching on YouTube, I just did the most grandiose air quotes that I possibly could. He ain't. If he's 5'11", I'm 6'9". So that's a little bit generous there, but that was fun. It was awesome to see him balling again.
What do you know about Scafati Basket?
Is that's not in France?
Close.
Italy?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where Frank Mason's playing.
He's not in France anymore. Oh, I thought he was still there.
No, he is
good for him.
Listed by Wikipedia as being on the roster of Scafati Basket. You know who else is on this team? Rob Gray.
Oh, your boy!
My guy, Rob Gray.
Your dude! Hey, I'm going to tell you what. That is a nasty backcourt of short dudes.
It really is.
Yeah.
Gray also listed at 5'11", signed with them this offseason. Both Gray and Mason signing with the team this offseason. They don't have uniform numbers yet. Presuming they may replace the likes of David Logan and Sek Henry in the backcourt.
I would imagine so. Frank is the epitome of a quad A basketball player. Incredible college player. National Player of the Year, unanimously college player. He was at one point the G League MVP. He won G League MVP, I think, when he was with Milwaukee, when he was playing in Oshkosh with the Wisconsin Herd. He's been good overseas. He is one of the leading scorers at TBT. Just not big enough and probably not good enough of a shooter to play in the NBA. But that was awesome, man. I love getting to see guys who I loved get to keep making plays. That's why I love something like the UFL. It's the product isn't as good, but it's fun. It's entertaining enough.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed watching it.
A little bit of guy remembering. Pretty impressive for Team Colorado, it should be said, coming to Wichita and beating both the Aftershocks and Mass Street.
And K-State.
Yeah, they did beat K-State. They beat them all,
too.
didn't they?
Yeah, they beat all three Kansas teams at the Roundhouse, which is wild. I will say, when you've got legit NBA dudes who can fill out your roster for TBT, that's a big help. Andre Roberson in the NBA was a role player who was essentially a black hole on offense. He looked like Kareem out there. I mean, he was locking dudes down like Gary Payton. He could even shoot a little bit, which he never did in the NBA.
He was a career 25% three-point shooter, and in this event, he looks like Steph Curry.
I'm amazed he was even shooting 25%. I figured it would have been even lower. Yeah, it's bananas, man. It really is. But fun event. I was sad. You saw just the tail end of the game, right, Trenton?
Yeah, I had to finish up watching James McArthur do what he did.
Man.
And Brian O'Nora. Don't let me get going on him again. And I turned it in just to watch some rec league threes from LeGerald Vick and Dedrick Lawson, two of the worst shots I've ever seen.
Yeah. ISO Vic was not how I really wanted that game to end.
You know, Brian O'Nora used to officiate basketball. Google Brian O'Nora charges to learn more.
Brian
I don't even know how
O'Nora
to respond.
once did a charity event at Emporia State. Search Brian O'Nora Stinger.
Oh my gosh, we got to do a break.
Andre Roberson's dating Rachel Demita. Good for him.
Really?
Yeah.
Rachel Demita, I still she got famous for what? Instagram?
NBA 2K.
What?
Yeah, she was hosting like NBA 2K TV. That's how I know who she is. Now she works for Duke football, like as of 3 hours ago.
I just saw this.
She's their new in-venue video board and social media game day host.
If you don't know who Rachel Demita is, you're not alone. I'm sorry to be very chauvinistic here. She's an attractive brunette. Like, I don't really know what she does well. I'm not trying to be mean. She's good enough to get a job with a major school.
She is a digital host.
All right. Sure.
Hey, that's the thing to be. We're digital hosts. Watch us on YouTube.
That's
580
right.
Sports Talk. We're digital hosts. We don't.
Where's my job, Duke?
We don't look as good as Rachel Demita, but we are digital.
Right.
We are digital hosts. We'll take a break. Come back with some Royals talk here on 580 Sports Talk. 1:47. We're rounding third, heading for home on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. It's a Royals off night. They're back in action tomorrow night. It's also an off night from scoreboard watching because the only game that's germane to the Royals in the playoff chase in the American League is already a final. It's another shutout loss for the Guardians. They lose 3-0 at home to Detroit earlier this afternoon. So that means that going into tomorrow, the Royals will be 5.5 games back of Cleveland for first place in the Central. They will maintain a 1-game lead over Boston, who gave up 20 runs to the Rockies yesterday afternoon. So, those teams, like Boston and Cleveland, are flawed teams, is what I'm saying. So, like, we talk about the Royals, and they've got their issues, and their lineup's not super deep, and yeah, they have some questions in the late innings. Look, it's a 6-team playoff field now. Like, it's not just like the 1940s where only one awesome team made it to the playoffs, to the World Series. Like, there are going to be some flawed teams that make these playoffs, and why can't you be the best of a flawed bunch? Like that's eminently possible for the Royals. Cleveland's looking really gettable. Their offensive results are starting to match their batted ball profile, which is they don't hit the ball very hard as a team, generally speaking. So be interested to see where that goes. If they don't add a starting pitcher or some bullpen reinforcements or a bat, like they need some pieces. Otherwise, I think somebody can run them down.
I would say so.
So the big Royals news today, there's a new sandwich at Kauffman Stadium.
I would eat it.
I would also eat it. It's called the Pasquich.
We are getting a little too far here with just putting Pask in front of everything for Vinny.
It will be located at the Pasquantino's stand, located at Section 208 near Gate A at the K, starting tomorrow night through the remainder of the season. The Pasquich consists of shaved Italian beef, topped with 2 slices of provolone cheese, 2 strips of bacon, crispy golden brown hash brown patties, and giardiniera aioli, all served on a buttered and grilled brioche bun. That sounds like it absolutely slaps.
Yeah, it sounds delicious. It's a little heavy for me, but I would eat it. The problem with a sandwich, though, there's no easy way to eat a sandwich at a ball game, especially one that's that thick.
Yeah.
Because the chair is, kind of awkward.
You're not sitting at
angle.
a table. Like a sandwich is table food. You put your elbows on the table and you eat it, right?
And I'll be honest with you, I totally understand if you are eating something that's a little messy and you feel the need to, lay napkins out or, go to the bathroom, grab some paper towels, lay those on your lap when you're eating the Pasquich. Totally understand it. I'm still going to make fun of you if you do that at a baseball game. I'm nice nerd. Like, come on. You can't be loading up on the top there. I know you need lots of napkins when you eat.
I do.
If you did that, I'd make fun. And I would expect you to do the same to me.
Could I get like an au jus though with the Italian beef? Like I need like an au jus. I don't something to moisten it a little bit. Maybe the aioli does enough of that. I don't know, but I like a little.
Yeah, I would
au
imagine
jus.
that's the
Italian beef is a Chicago delicacy. You an Italian beef guy? You pro Italian beef?
Not only am I pro Italian beef, people are like, "Oh, Chicago pizza." No. The Chicago styles of pizza are secondary to the Italian beef as the true Chicago delicacy. It's so good. I miss it. That is the one thing I legitimately miss about living where I grew up is being able to get an Italian beef anywhere.
Access to a good Italian beef.
Oh my God. There's a place in Lawrence that's run by folks who are from Chicago. They have one that's pretty good, but I miss it. Shout out to Paul's. Shout out to Mr. Beef. Shout out to Al's. So good.
Mr. Beef's the one from the show, right? From the Bear?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, it's the one that
I believe
the
so.
stand-in for the
Yeah.
The stand-in for the restaurant in the Bear.
So good.
Yeah.
I used to, when I first met my wife, and actually long after we met, I used to talk about how much I missed Italian beef. And I never gave the context of the fact that it is an Italian beef sandwich. So my wife at one point asked me something to the effect of like, so what's different about how you cook the beef? And I explained it. She goes, "Oh, you put it on bread?" Like, yeah, you put it on a hoagie roll, essentially. She goes, "Oh, I thought you were just like cooking beef and eating it." Like, no. It's a type of sandwich. It's not just this beef is from Italy. It is not like that. It's a style of sandwich.
My mom and dad like that show, The Bear, and they wanted to learn, like they wanted to make their own Italian beef. My mom figured out an Italian beef recipe, and it holds up pretty good. I've had it. It's good. It's good.
Eat them wet?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how you gotta do it.
That's what I'm saying. The Pasquich needs a au jus, a dipping sauce.
Those who aren't in the know don't know
If
that the right way to do is, like, when you pick the sandwich up out of your basket or plate or whatever for a real Italian beef, the bread should be disintegrating in your hand. It
Yes,
should be
correct,
dripping when
correct.
you pick it up. Oh, yeah. No, that's the way to do it.
It's too bad a certain slider throwing ex-Royals right-hander isn't still on the team, because then you could serve a Pasquich with au Junis.
All right.
The final word is next on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Wrapping up this edition of 580 Sports Talk with a final word. Brendan Dworzinski, you're up first.
My final word today, I'm not going to spend too much time on the absolute doofus who won What Is Wrong With You today, but I will say this as a quick preface for my final word. If you are 35 years old and you're stealing money from the church to give to TikTokers, A, grow up, B, get a job, C, seek help. My actual final word, the main event of my final word for today, tough one for the Royals yesterday. Not the kind of thing that is going to derail a season by any means. It's frustrating with the umpiring. Frustrating you couldn't get the job done. McArthur really melted down after things started to turn south in that ninth inning. But still a whole lot to play for. That is why I still want this team to be really aggressive at the trade deadline. And by really aggressive, I mean take a big swing. You're not going to get more than one. We just talked about that yesterday in all likelihood, given the state of this farm system. But we mentioned two guys today. Kevin Pillar, right now today, would he make this Royals team better, even incrementally?
I think he would.
I think the guy I brought up, Nico Horner, a legit leadoff hitter. He's not going to hit anything but singles and an occasional double, but he's fast. He has a good glove, and he can lead off for you. Does that make this team better? I would say yes. He wouldn't even have to leave Kansas City after this weekend series. So go do something, make a big swing, make this team better.
Final word for me. It's amazing that the Chiefs were as good as they were last year, given their problems in the turnover department, not just giving the ball away cheaply, which the Chiefs did far too often last year, but the fact that they didn't take it away very often. They only had 17 takeaways last year. Their turnover margin ranked alongside the league's bottom feeders like the Patriots, Falcons, and Commanders. If that number turns around, and you can expect turnover regression year over year anyhow, the Chiefs should be right back to that 13, 14 win plateau that we've seen them get to over the years in the regular season. But the Chiefs are making a point to practice forcing turnovers here in this training camp. And I'm fascinated to see particularly how this secondary, which doesn't have a great track record of interceptions and forcing turnovers, develops as a ball hawking group. They're going to need more than 8 interceptions this coming season. I have a feeling that they'll have it, and I'll call my shot now. Trent McDuffie will have his first career interception at some point in 2024. That's going to do it for the show today. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 2. We'll have 4 hours plus a little overtime. We'll get you ready for the Cubs Royals series. We'll talk to Matt Derrick, have some more Chiefs audio tomorrow as well. For Trent Kraxner and Brendan Dworzynski, I'm Dan Lucero from the 580 from the Kansas Drive to Zero studios. It's 580 Sports Talk.